Chapter 998. Yu Yang lived a blissful life for the next 3 days, especially when Aquamarine heard the news and rushed down from the meteor shower sea to meet him. It added to the passion of their reunion. The only pity was that sickly Beauty was bringing the little guys from the death class out to train and couldn't find time to come back. Are you forgetting something? Impatience and Southern Demon King came back from the heaven stairway. When they hugged, Sky Law asked softly in Yu Yang's ear. Oh, Yu Yang was stunned when he heard this. Forgot something? Nothing. He had defeated the Sun King. The Silent King was killed by Queen Vivian Li. The Lion King and Golden Crown King had entered the Demon Ceiling Tower, and the 8 generals under him had either died or surrendered. He didn't forget anything. Ming Rihao had gotten together with Pearlite. The unconscious Freedom Queen and half of the unknown god's body were brought back by Yu Yu. He didn't have time to deal with them. The treasures around the Divine Grimoire were all plundered. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, Shuetan Lang, and the others were recuperating. The whole Tongtian Tower was under control. How could he have missed anything? Even the biggest worry, that annoying clown, had become fertilizer for the flowers. Wait, the battle where Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, Emperor of the Underworld, and Hui Tai Lang attacked the double-faced king. No wonder he felt that something was missing these few days. It was Hui Tai Lang, that dog, running around and fawning on him. I'm going to faint. Yu Yang was shocked. He hurriedly brought Sky Law and Southern Demon King with him, and used the 3-realm compass to return to the Stone World. In the Stone World, everything was the same as before. It was as if there had never been a battle. However, Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, and Emperor of the Underworld all looked like sick men who had just recovered from a serious illness. It seemed like the battle with the double-faced king was really a fierce one. Even now, they had not recovered. Only Grey Wolf was not injured. This glutton was currently eating to his heart's content under the service of Manager Yi, Class Leader Jean, and the others. The ones competing with him were the Barbarian Bull Brothers. In addition, there were also Zhongguan, Hei Tu, Bai Ma, Feng Ji, Fiery Eye Jin Yun, and other subordinates. They were sitting in a circle and gambling out of boredom. Grey Wolf was the first to sense Yu Yang's arrival. It opened its big mouth and swallowed the food in front of the Barbarian Bull Brothers. Then, it ran over with puffed cheeks, shaking its head and wagging its tail to welcome its master. God's Retribution and the others were ecstatic to see Yu Yang. Zhongguan and the others cheered in unison. Teacher Jean and the others were moved to tears. God, Titan Yu, who had fought against the Sun King, had actually returned safely. What did his appearance signify? It meant that the Sun King had been defeated. He was already mentally prepared, but when he saw Yu Yang appear, he still felt that it was unbelievable. Let alone outsiders like Chief Manager Yi and Class Leader Jean. Even subordinates like Heavy Crown Hei Tu and White Horse found it hard to believe. The Sun King had been defeated? That was the master of the Central Shrine, the Sun God Palace. The Sun King who was known as the #1 in the Central Shrine, Jiwori. The Sun King whose strength was on par with Jiwori, had actually been defeated by Titan Yu? He's already dead. Yu Yang's words shocked everyone even more. They couldn't believe their ears. It was already exaggerated enough to say that he had defeated the Sun King. But now, Titan Yu said that the Sun King was already dead? If this was not said by him, the new prison emperor of Tongtian Tower, others would definitely laugh their heads off. Sky Execution was startled. He wanted to probe further, but when he saw Impatience walking out from beside Yu Yang, he immediately believed that this was a miraculous fact. The Dragon Emperor was so excited that he couldn't speak. He let out a long roar, but he still felt that it wasn't enough. He shouted happily, "Good, good, you're a good lad." The Emperor of the Underworld gave him a thumbs up. He was convinced. He prostrated himself in admiration. He didn't know how strong the Sun King was, but he had personally experienced how strong the weakest of the 4 kings under the Sun King, Double-Faced King, was. If it wasn't for Hui Tai Lang, the world-exterminating demon wolf, and Yu Yang's deceptive domain that sent Double-Faced King into Hui Tai Lang's grimoire world, they wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Even if Double-Faced King was trapped in the grimoire world and was restricted by the Divine Beast's will, he would still need Hui Tai Lang, Sky Execution, the Dragon Emperor and himself to fight for a day and a night to finally defeat him. If it wasn't for the fact that Hui Tai Lang would have sent the participants out of the grimoire world to heal their injuries, even Sky Execution wouldn't be able to last until the end. However, the Sun King, who is many times more powerful than Double-Face King, who is almost as powerful as a god, was actually killed by a young man like Yu Yang with the help of Silent King, Lion King, and Golden Crown King. He was indeed the most abnormal person in the history of Tong Tian Tower. The three kings of Jifeng, Qing Lang and Lu Luo, are already dead. Qing Lang left a heart of remorse, while the king of Jifeng left a heart of true love. Yu Yang explained to Chief Butler Yi, "Young Master Titan, please have mercy on us ants." Chief Butler Yi and Class Leader Jean knelt down. "I can help you remove the curse on your bodies, but I'm very busy and don't have time to be your king. Why don't you look for Sky Execution or the Dragon Emperor?" Yu Yang couldn't be bothered to clean up the mess in Tianhua region. Removing the curse was very easy for him. He could even use Pu Gui to absorb it. However, Tianhua region was in a mess, so Yu Yang didn't have the time or mood to care about it. If he had the time, he might as well chase after Ji Zun at the Heaven Stairway World Tree. Moreover, after killing the Sun King, his next target would be Ji Wuri. No matter what, he had to stop Ji Wuri and kill him before he passed. Don't look for me. Sky Execution was also a martial arts fanatic. He couldn't waste any time on training. We can't manage our own people. The Dragon Emperor also shook his head and refused. I'm not interested in being a king. The Emperor of the Underworld refused. Actually, what they meant was that they wanted to train harder in the remaining time and strive for a higher level. With enough power, would they be afraid of not having a territory? Not to mention the Heaven Realm. Even the Western Heaven Realm was vast and boundless. Who could manage so many places? Tianhua region was huge and troublesome. Just the countless starving people alone were enough to give them a headache. Yu Yang secretly scolded these guys for not being loyal, but it didn't seem like he could forcefully share the task. After all, they were considered elders. In the end, he could only comfort Leader Jean, Chief Steward Yi, and the other servants. Don't worry, the Vengeance Region Emperor didn't die, right? There's also the snake-haired devil man, Mr. Everlasting Wind. Let them be the Region Emperor and King. If you don't feel at ease, I can introduce another person to you, the Ming Clan's commander, Ming Rihao. He is extremely powerful and can definitely help the Vengeance Region Emperor to stand firm and become a stable Tianhua Region Emperor. Before he finished, Chief Steward Yi, Leader Jean, and the other servants cried as if their fathers had died. "Mr. Titan, they are all gone." Yu Yang heard and frowned. Gone? Leader Jean kowtowed, with tears streaming down his face. The Vengeance Region Emperor said that he was blinded by hatred in the past and did many wrong things. He gave up on hatred and exiled himself to travel the Heaven Realm to train. Mr. Everlasting Wind also went with him. Mr. Ritien, when he left the Stone World with a giant clan girl, he said that he wanted to return to the Ming clan's hometown and rebuild it. He said that Tianhua region will be revived under your rule. That damn bitter uncle. Don't think that I will give you a gift when you get married. Just hug that muscular girl for the rest of your life. Yu Yang was furious. Mr. Titan, Chief Steward Yi, and the others looked as if they would commit suicide if Yu Yang didn't agree. He doesn't have time to manage you. But it doesn't matter, I do. Phoenix Fairy Beauty suddenly stood up. Her beautiful face carried a smile that could charm all living things. Do you know who I am? I am his wife, Skylaw. In the future, I will take over Tianhua region. You're all under my rule. This, Chief Butler Yi, Class Leader Jean, and the others didn't even dare to look at Phoenix Fairy Beauty. When it came to beauty, they had always thought that Lady Pearllight's beauty and temperament were the best in the world. However, looking at her now, if Lady Pearllight was compared to the Titan Prince's wife, she was like a sparrow beside a giant swan. They were on completely different levels. Most importantly, this Sky Law Beauty's strength was unfathomable. She seemed to be as strong as Mr. Titan, and even stronger than the Dragon Emperor Heavenly Execution and emperor of the underworld. If she became the Regent Emperor of Tianhua region, it would naturally be the best. But what would Mr. Titan's attitude be? Without Mr. Titan's approval, who would dare to worship Sky Law Beauty as their master? Aren't you afraid of trouble? Yu Yang looked at Impatience strangely. It's okay, I'm just here in name. It's been so long since I came up to take a look. Naturally, I'll still accompany you, you little rascal. Moreover, as the Regent Emperor, there are so many countries under me. Why do I have to worry about myself? I just need to know how to use people. Impatience didn't care. She felt that managing Tianhua region wasn't difficult at all. I can't be the Regent Emperor. Let me be the country's ruler. Southern Demon King also joined in the fun. Her jade-like hands gently played the pipa, and the sounds of nature descended from the sky. People who heard it were mesmerized. For a long time, they didn't want to wake up from the ocean of music. The Southern Goblin King stopped and mischievously blinked her big eyes at Yu Yang. The name Still Wind Kingdom is too unpleasant to hear. Let's call it Breeze from now on. I want to let hope emerge in the hearts of all the citizens, and then let this hope spread to every corner like a breeze. Hey, are you interested in the treasures left behind by Ji Feng and the others? Impatience couldn't help but ridicule. Sister, are you the kind of person who treats your citizens kindly? I also want to do something big once in a while, okay? Southern Goblin King stuck out her tongue, looking as if her thoughts had been seen through by someone. It's really unfortunate for the citizens to be ruled by you. Impatience couldn't help but sigh. Same to you. Southern Demon King snorted when she heard that. What she meant was that Sky Law wasn't that great either. Moreover, even if she couldn't manage it well, it would only be the matter of Gentle Breeze Kingdom. But if she couldn't manage it well, it would be the tragedy of the entire Tianhua region. Chief Butler Yi, Head Jean, and the rest looked at each other. Having someone to manage, it was better than having no one to manage it. In the Heaven Realm, if one didn't have a strong backing, it was equivalent to being bullied by others. Now, there were two. Although they were women, they were the wives and concubines of young Master Titan. They were also powerful enough. It was great that they were willing to take over the authority that young Master Titan had no time to manage. If they took over, wouldn't it be the same as young Master Titan managing it? It would be the same anyway. Young Master Titan had great ambitions. He didn't care about the small Tianhua region. His target should be the Heaven Realm. Therefore, it was already a great fortune for the two of them to manage the Tianhua region. When Zhongguan secretly transmitted a message to them, he hinted that the beauty of Sky Law beside young Master Titan was actually Sky Execution's younger sister, and that the Southern Demon King was the daughter of the Dragon Emperor. Chief Manager Yi and Class Leader Jean were even more overjoyed. Great, so they were all family. They immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Impatience, calling her Her Majesty Sky Law Empress. Then they kowtowed to the Southern Demon King, calling her Her Majesty Queen of Gentle Breeze. Although the ceremony was very simple, it could be considered as acknowledging their master-servant relationship. All right, since that's the case, let's go home. The Southern Goblin King smugly revealed a beautiful smile that could melt all ice and snow. I wonder if I, the Queen, would have the honor to invite young Master Titan to my Green Willow City as a guest. My birthday is coming soon. Young Master Titan can't just give me a drop of God's blood. You have to give me at least 100 treasures to make me smile from the bottom of my heart. I'll give you my whole body. Yu Yang couldn't help but pinch her little nose when he saw her smile mischievously. I need to think about it before I decide whether to accept it or not. The Southern Demon King raised her little fist as if she was dissatisfied with Yu Yang's teasing just now. However, she couldn't bear to really hit him. She was just putting on an act. Seeing a pair of young lovers flirting, everyone naturally turned their faces away, pretending not to see. Hui Tai Lang put them into the Grimoire world one by one. Yu Yang activated the three-realm compass and brought them all back to the Green Willow City that they had been away from for many days. Although the Green Willow City didn't change much, in just a few days, everyone knew that the whole world had changed. Furthermore, it was a change that reversed the universe. Chapter 999, Green Willow City. The king's residence had a new master today. It was no longer called Still Wine Kingdom, but Breezy Kingdom. The king of Breezy Kingdom was a beautiful queen. This was the first news that all the residents of Green Willow City knew. In the Tianhua domain, whether it was a city lord, or a king, there was nothing strange about it. After all, as long as there was a fierce battle, there would be many changes. Although the king of Stillwind Kingdom had ruled for a long time, everyone knew that this day would come and had long been mentally prepared. To be precise, it was a good thing that a new master was stationed in the king's residence of Green Willow City. Many new kings would set up benevolent policies, such as reducing taxes when they first arrived to increase their popularity as quickly as possible. But when the residents of Green Willow City heard the second news, they were completely stunned. Because the second news was that the Divine Light and Wrath Regent Emperors had died in battle, and the vengeful Regent Emperor had exiled himself. The current successor was a Divine Punishment Empress that no one had ever heard of. The chaos in the Tianhua domain was because there were too many experts with the qualifications of Regent Emperors, and they fought each other. That was why it became like this. But no matter how chaotic it was, people could not imagine that the Tianhua domain with 3 Regent Emperors would lose 2 Regent Emperors in just a few days, and one would leave. The most unbelievable thing was that a new Tian Fa Empress had arrived in the Tianhua domain in the blink of an eye. Where did so many Regent Emperors come from? Also, who was this Divine Punishment Empress? All the changes were like a mystery. No one could figure it out. Even the branch leader of the Heaven Realm Mercenary Guild in Green Willow City only knew a little inside information. The Divine Punishment Empress was living in the king's residence in Green Willow City, and she was sisters with the new king of Breezy Kingdom. The Tianhua domain is going to be in chaos again. The branch leader of the Mercenary Guild sighed. Chief Steward Yi received countless guests that day. He felt that even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would not be able to split himself. He had to be busy with external affairs, and he had to deal with internal affairs immediately. The dozens of wives and concubines of the king of Still Wind naturally could not stay in the king's residence anymore. He had to arrange a place for them immediately. The loyal guards of the king of Still Wind were also a problem. Fortunately, they had all accepted the death of the lord of the Still Wind Kingdom. Otherwise, when a new king took office, there would probably be a bloody purge. None of this was important. The most important thing was that the new master would definitely have different interests and hobbies from the lord of Stillwind Kingdom. What if he could make her fall in love with Green Willow City and Breezy Kingdom? Chief Manager Yi felt that this was a difficult problem. Yi Yang had no interest in managing the country. He was the kind of person who would not care about anything as long as he had a beauty in his arms. Others had their own ways of living, and he only needed to take care of himself. Naturally, he did not object to the fact that the Impatiens and the Southern Demon King were willing to share his burden. As long as you don't fight in the Flower Sky domain, the scenery is pretty good. Moreover, there are many secret areas to explore. For example, the sunken floating continent under White River City is definitely not as simple as the Water God's Palace. Other than the secrets under the water, there's also the mysterious smoky wave sea and a legendary hidden fog that devours everything. The Impatiens laid in Yu Yang's arms, lazily flipping through the map while enjoying the frozen purple jade grapes that the charmed demon queen had peeled for her. When she realized that Yu Yang, who was engrossed in studying ancient runes, was ignoring her, she immediately turned around and stuck out her tongue, sending the grapes in her mouth into his mouth. Actually, being a king is very simple. As long as the people can eat their fill, it's fine. The Southern Demon King sat at the side. However, she did not dare to be as intimate as the Impatiens, at least not in front of everyone. The problem is that we don't have much food. Chief Manager Yi and Class Leader Jean knelt on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. Although they felt that the new policy that the Southern Demon King had proposed, and that the commoners would be exempted from taxes, and the slaves would be paid, and the soldiers would be given a holiday, they as servants did not dare to open their mouths to persuade her. They could only tactfully say that not only the breezy country, even a small country like Green Willow City, would not be able to implement this policy. It was fine if the commoners were exempted from taxes and the slaves were paid. However, if the soldiers who had no war to fight returned home on holiday, those warmongers who thirsted for blood would definitely gather to plunder. At that time, the flames of war would not only spread to the front lines of the war, but also to the rear like the breezy country. Moreover, the Tianhua domain had been fighting against each other for thousands of years. Between cities, between countries, between races, and so on, how could a truce be able to resolve the enmity between them? Even if the most powerful region emperor issued an order, it would probably take hundreds or even thousands of years before this unprecedented war could be calmed down. We have plenty of food. The Southern Demon King waved her hand nonchalantly. Tong Tian Tower was now ushering in a rising era. The leaders of the various races had purposely calmed down the war between them. Even the expansionist races like the Demon Abyss had stopped attacking. Therefore, there was no place to store the food and materials that were originally reserved for war. If Tong Tian Tower's resources were insufficient, the large area around the Emerald Territory in the Southern Heaven Realm had also become a commercial area because of the arrival of Yuyang. The Lionheart King and the nearby kings had already given up control of the Emerald Territory. They had no intention of opposing the forces behind the Nightless City. Currently, the flow of materials in the Nightless City was like a tide. If it was not guided, it would definitely decline. The profits would continue to decline, and it would become a place of commercial decay. The Tianhua domain urgently needed food and various materials. It was the best place to digest them. It could not only alleviate the plight of the Tianhua domain, but also allow the businesses of the Tong Tian Tower and the Emerald Territory to continue to develop crazily. If Yuyang was willing to work harder, if he used the three-realm compass a few more times, then the Breezy Nation, the Tong Tian Tower, and the Emerald Territory could all heave a sigh of relief. All three parties could benefit a lot. The leaders of the various clans in Tong Tian Tower and the various city lords of the Emerald Territory were already prepared. As long as Yuyang, the Titan Prince, nodded his head, then the ships of food and materials could be loaded into the storage rings of the envoys like an assembly line and transported to the breezy country through the three-realm compass. If the war in the Tianhua domain calmed down, the merchants from the surrounding regions would also move. Therefore, the Impatiens and the Southern Demon King had never worried that the Tianhua domain would not be well governed. If the Breezy Nation were to promote it, it would be easy for anyone who disobeyed orders. The warriors of the Tong Tian Tower were already ready to go. Without the three region emperors of Divine Light, Wrath, and Vengeance, the new Water Temple Master Azure Dragon, and the subordinates of the Sun King, who in the Tianhua domain would be a match for the warriors of the Tong Tian Tower led by the Tianju Dragon Emperor. All right then, I'll have to be a laborer for a while. Yuyang saw that the Impatiens and the others had decided, and the elders at home, such as Fourth Mother, Junryu, the Old Fox, and Elder Yuhai also agreed, so he could only temporarily put down this task. The Tianju Dragon Emperor and the Emperor of the Underworld did not return. Instead, the people of the Demonic Palace, the Demon Kings and Demon Generals of the Demon Abyss, the Eastern Goblin Tribe, the Dark Nether Tribe, and the elite warriors of many races in the Tong Tian Tower all came to Green Willow City under the leadership of Yuyang. They brought the resources that Green Willow City desired, and also brought the opportunity for them to grow quickly. In the Green Willow City of the Breezy Nation in the Tianhua domain, the base of the Tong Tian Tower in the Western Heaven Realm, they could cultivate and grow in relative safety. Because of the large number of trades, the various races in the Tong Tian Tower had obtained the resources of the Heaven Realm that the Tong Tian Tower did not have. As for how the various clans used these resources, it was none of Yuyang's business. On the side of the Emerald Territory, there was also an accumulation of countless food supplies. With the crazy pouring of the bottomless pit of the Tianhua domain, the business income of the Emerald Territory made all the participants' eyes red. They had never seen a business that required all kinds of supplies, and it was a business that no matter how much they traded, it was not enough. A few days later, the Emerald Territory became the craziest gold mine in the Southern Heaven Realm. Under the legend of even picking up a stone can be sold for money, a gold rush-like business exploded here. Even a super strong person like the Lionheart King personally came to meet Yu Yang and asked for cooperation. I'm very busy. I can cooperate, but it won't be too long. I can't do this every day. Yu Yang was not interested in making money. The reason was that he was too rich. Money had become meaningless to him. If it weren't for the fact that money could be exchanged for a large number of treasures, crystals, and exotic plants, he wouldn't have bothered to go to Tong Tian Tower and the Emerald Territory every day. He didn't need to carry goods like a coolie. Everyone used storage rings to load the goods and waited for him to arrive. As long as he took a trip, everyone would be willing to give him half of the benefits. Except for Yu Yang, no one had the ability to travel from the Southern Heaven Realm to the Western Heaven Realm in an instant. Of course, there were teleportation gates. Not to mention that taxes would be deducted halfway. It would take as long as half a year. If he encountered a robbery, he might lose everything. With this kind of convenience, who would want to be an unlucky traveling merchant? Who didn't know that Master Bao Gu of Nightless City had his current position because he had joined young Master Titan? As for Tong Tian Tower, there was no need to talk about it. The merchants of Tong Tian Tower might not know their parents, but they definitely knew the third young master of the Yu clan, who was called the new prison emperor by the various kings. Do you want to rise? Do you want to go to the Heaven Realm to broaden your horizons? Do you want the elite warriors and talented juniors in your clan to have the best opportunity to grow? Go. The third young master of the Yu clan is waiting for you in the Heaven Realm. As long as you go to his side, you may become the second Xue Tan Lang. You may become the second Yi Kong, the second Haida Fu, the second. What are you waiting for? The Warrior Guild, Thief Guild, and Mercenary Guild of Tong Tian Tower all posted such slogans. Hence, under Yu Yang's leadership for a few days, at least tens of thousands of Tong Tian Tower's elites and Chamber of Commerce's representatives had flooded into Green Willow City. The originally lifeless Green Willow City was like a withered tree that had been given a new lease of life. The flourishing scene simply made Great Manager Yi, Class Leader Jean, and the other locals dumbstruck. The Southern Demon King didn't need to govern at all. She didn't need to do anything. The talents of all races in Tong Tian Tower were fully taken over. The only thing she had to do was accompany Yu Yang to study ancient books and a treasure map depicted on ancient bee skin. Impatience? This Sky Law girl had already sent out the first decree of the Regent Emperor. She ordered the 10,000 monarchs and the leaders of the super races in the Tianhua region, who originally belonged to the three factions, to come to Green Willow City to see the new Regent Emperor within a month. Otherwise, it would be seen as treason and they would all be punished. We still have to stay here for a month? So boring. Yu Yang sent someone to send a letter to Ming Ri Hao, scolding him for not having any loyalty. Why don't we go and explore the Water God Palace under the White River City? Maybe there are divine weapons left there. The Southern Goblin King felt that Yu Yang was actually quite pitiful. It wasn't easy to be a coolie who carried goods to earn money. Furthermore, he had to do it for a month. Hence, she suggested to explore the legendary Water God Palace during the day to see if they could find some treasures to comfort Yu Yang's broken heart. Why don't we bring that girl Lu Yi along? With her perforate deer, it would be much more convenient. The Impatiens also felt that treasure hunting was a good plan. Explore the Water God Palace. Yu Yang's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly had a feeling that maybe the treasure depicted on the ancient bee skin was also on the floating continent. If they explored the Water God Palace, they might be able to find even more ancient treasures. There was also the mysterious smoky waves sea and the legendary hidden fog. Those had to be cleared up. Could it be a divine power inheritance like the supreme dragon god, left for Jiangying, or some other type of power? Chapter 1000. In the center of the Tianhua domain, White River City. White River City was a city built on water. For thousands of years, it had been the center of a fierce battle between the divine light, wrath, and vengeful domain emperors. What was strange was that although White River City had been at war for thousands of years, it had a strange rule. No one was allowed to use force in White River City. Any warrior who entered the city, whether they were soldiers or adventurers, would agree to this rule. In the city, People who were enemies could sit at the same table and eat together. Once out of the city, they could immediately fight each other and kill each other. In this water city that didn't even have a city lord, it was a miracle that the war filled with blood and anger could be avoided. White River City could be said to be the safest place in the entire Tianhua domain. However, White River outside the city, it was the most terrifying place in the Tianhua domain. Who knew how many corpses of soldiers and adventurers were buried underneath? If it wasn't for the deep White River blocking the way, the pile of corpses from thousands of years of battle would have been even higher than the famous hanging mountain range in the Tianhua region. Anyone who had visited White River City would understand that the White River was not a river. Rather, it was a boundless inland sea. This inland sea, which submerged one-third of the land of the Tianhua region, was named the White River because of the strange milky white haze on the surface of the sea. It was even said that there was a hidden fog that could devour all things. The depth of the White River was unfathomable. Even if the entire floating continent fell into it, it would not be visible at all. Originally, there had been several countries and nearly 1,000 cities on the floating continent. Now, only the several hundred extremely tall peaks of the hanging mountain range remained. They had become pitiful little islands, and later generations had built cities on them. In a hazy sky, a long and narrow crescent-shaped merchant ship sailed over. From its deep waterline and bulging sails, one could tell that it was a supply ship, but no one knew which faction it belonged to. Because of the rumor that the Divine Light Domain Emperor and Wrath Domain Emperor had died in battle, and the Vengeful Domain Emperor had exiled himself, the Tianhua domain seemed to be taken over by a nameless woman, Skylaw. The chaotic situation made all the merchant ships that came to White River lower their flags. They didn't even know if their lord was dead or alive, and they still continued to fight for him? Wasn't that ridiculous? Welcome to White River City. You are safe now. Old Anchor, who was standing at the East Gate Pier, shouted loudly. He took the giant steel cable anchor thrown over from the ship and skillfully wrapped it around the huge steel pier of the pier. The first thing the dockworkers did was to greet and comfort the outsiders. This was the rule of White River City. No one knew when this rule had come into existence, but it had been passed down for thousands of years. In the end, it had become a specialty of White River City. Old Anchor was the best dockworker here, second to none. He worked here for hundreds of years, knew everything like the back of his hand. It was said that he had led the boats of Divine Light, Wrath, and Vengeance, 3 region emperors. Other than him, who was the most senior, no one else had such an honor. Master actually has tips. Old Iron Anchor collected the money, as usual. Then he noticed that the fat toad in glamorous clothes took out another small bag of money. He immediately shrugged and said, "It seems that you're trying to get top secret information from me again. I will only ask 3 simple questions. After I ask, as long as you answer them honestly, whether you can answer them or not, it will be yours." The fat toad merchant smiled. He shook the bag of money, enticing Old Anchor. Old Anchor pretended to be drooling, waiting for the other party's eyes to shine with success. Then, he suddenly put on a serious expression. "I'm sorry, but can I refuse?" His companions were already used to this kind of teasing of foreign merchants. One of them, who was covered in hair and looked like a gorilla, pounded his chest hard, as if he couldn't laugh happily if he didn't do it. "Foreigner, put away your foolishness. In front of our boss Anchor, money is completely useless. Do you think he will succumb to you and become a poor slave to money? He will only succumb to good wine. In this world, only the liquor worm can defeat him." Ha ha! Another prawn-like fellow with eyes on the top of his head waved his slender arms and pretended to be serious as he advised, "It's not that I want to talk too much, but rich foreigner in White River City, you can do anything. Even if you make money like crazy, even if you empty everyone's wallet, you will still be fine. But if you know too many secrets that you shouldn't, you're right. I was just about to kindly remind you, dear master, that here the ignorant are the safest." Old Anchor said and laughed. "So that's how it is." The fat toad was not angry at all. He was still smiling. Instead, it was the two guards beside the fat toad who didn't look too happy. The fat toad waved his hand. Feng Ji, Jinyun, go back and report to young master and madam that we have arrived at White River City. Someone had already come out of the cabin. It was Yu Yang and Sky Law and Southern Demon King, who were wearing a cloak and veil to hide their beautiful figures. Unlike the two of them, Lu Yi still maintained her original appearance. She accompanied Yu Yang, her beautiful big eyes rolling around, constantly looking around, curious about everything. Those who didn't know would definitely mistake her for Yu Yang's maid. The fat toad was naturally Jiada, the big profiteer, Yu Yang's #1 money-making expert. He was even better than the slick Bao Gu. The guards in front were Feng Ji and Jin Yun, and behind them were the surrender trio, Zhongguan, He Tu, and Bai Ma. Hua Ban and Fei Huang were left in the cabin to watch the goods. Of course, there were also the barbarian bull brothers who couldn't walk as long as they had food and drink. Although Grey Wolf was also gluttonous, he was definitely not as unrestrained as the two brothers. He was absolutely outstanding as a watchdog. As soon as Yu Yang went out, he immediately followed. He would never miss the opportunity to show his loyalty. Young master, why don't we take the sedan? It's too humid here. Although Jiada was not a dog, his nose was also very sensitive. He could smell the abnormality in the air. Other than the salty water vapor, there was also a half-hidden smell of blood. It was like the smell of a bloody battlefield where thousands of people had died. After a few days of rain, there was still the smell left. Yu Yang was silent. He, who had the heaven eyes divine vision, could truly understand. The smell of blood was definitely not coming from this White River, but from inside White River City. This smell of blood was not from slaughtering pigs or sheep. Although there was some concealment, most of it was human blood. Yu Yang was very sure of this. It should be some kind of blood sacrifice. The impatiens did not say anything. She directly communicated with Yu Yang and the Southern Demon King through the soul ribbon and told them her judgment. Looks like this White River City is really a dangerous place. It is not as peaceful and stable as the rumors say. Blood sacrifice. What do we need to open that requires a blood sacrifice? The Water God Palace or some other ancient ruins? The Southern Demon King was not someone to be trifled with. It must be known that other than Shui Wuxia, the Princess Sisai had the most respect for this Eastern Goblin tribe princess. They must have received the news that the Divine Light and Wrath Region Emperors had died in battle, and the Vengeful Region Emperor had left Tianhua region. It was impossible to say that the people in White River City had nothing to do with the Central Shrine. They should know that the Sun King had plotted against the 3 region emperors, but they were not the Sun King's subordinates. They only did this after the Sun King had set up the trap. It could be seen that if they were the Sun King's subordinates, they would have sacrificed their blood without hesitation and would not have waited until now. As for whether these people are related to the New Water Temple Master Azure Dragon, it is still unclear. Let's go in and take a look. The White River City is really an interesting place, with just the dock laborers having the hidden power of Heaven Rank Level 6. Yu Yang's face was covered with a new silver mask. He did not show it on the surface, and only communicated with the impatiens and the Southern Demon King through his consciousness. As for Lu Yi, the less this girl knew, the better. Because she was too innocent, she was a person who could not hide her thoughts. As long as others looked at her face, they would be able to understand. Therefore, it was best not to tell her anything, and only arrange for her to do it when the time was right. Yu Yang did not look at the old anchor who was pouring wine into his mouth. He just walked forward and led the way. However, the impatiens and the Southern Demon King understood the hidden expert he was talking about. It was this old drunkard. The fat toad Jiada was good at doing business, but he could not see through people's hidden strength. Among the guards, only Jin Yun, who was known as the Fiery Eye, looked at the old anchor in confusion, shook his head, and finally gave up on his suspicions. Even the impatiens and the Southern Demon King could only see through old anchor's hidden strength, but could not accurately judge the old anchor's strength. He was not someone a guard of Jin Yun's level could see through, even if he was called the Fiery Eye. As Yu Yang and the others walked over, The old anchor who was pouring wine into his mouth suddenly put down the bottle in his hand. His drunken eyes became extremely sober as he stared at the back of the Impatiens, as if trying to judge something. What's wrong? Just a bunch of small merchants. There are dozens of ships like them every day, the protruding lobster-like man asked. Apart from the woman in the middle who has some strength, the rest are all Earth class, not worth mentioning. The gorilla was no longer as boorish as it had been before. It was more like a meticulous fellow. The woman in the middle is definitely stronger than I am. The old anchor sneered. As for that young man, he doesn't look strong, like a gigolo who lives off a woman, but I feel something's not right. Before those big things are about to succeed, there can be no mistakes. Everyone must be on high alert and not let anything go wrong. If there's a chance, send someone to find out why they're here. If they're here for business, then we'll welcome them with open arms. But if they're here for something else, then it's best to, let's send Floater. That kid's definitely a smart one, the protruding lobster-like man suggested. I hope these people are real merchants. Old Anchor sighed softly. His sparkling eyes dimmed, and his imposing manner receded. He returned to being an old drunkard who led a befuddled life. He gulped down the rest of the wine from the bottle in his hand. In the distance, a few merchant ships, their waterlines almost touching the sides of their ships, broke through the smoke and sailed heavily towards White River City. The old anchor waved his large, rough hand. Everyone returned to being a bunch of dockworkers who reeked of alcohol, rushing to greet the ships. Welcome to White River City. You're safe. Chapter 1001. One day later, Yu Yang took the Impatiens, the Southern Demon King, and Lu Yi, and left by the East Gate Pier by boat. His departure surprised Old Anchor, who had been very suspicious of him. Why would he leave when he clearly felt that something was wrong? Could it be that he was really a merchant who came to White River City for business? But how could there be such a powerful merchant in the world? What kind of business do they do? Old Anchor could not help but look for Floater, who was in charge of gathering information from Yu Yang, and decided to get to the bottom of it. A gemstone business. They have countless gemstones. In White River City, they have found a dozen large chambers of commerce and sell gemstones of various colors at a price 30% higher than the outside world. In addition to selling the colorful gemstones from their hometown, they also buy ores of various attributes, such as electric flower or flame drop, ore and other rare ores. It's obvious that the sisters are the owners. That silver-masked gigolo, no matter if he's just the captain of the guards, isn't very strong, but he has sharp eyes and is very knowledgeable about gemstones and ores. A few traveling merchants tried to refine gemstones that are extremely difficult to distinguish, but he saw through them with a glance. Floater was the guide arranged by several large chambers of commerce in White River City. Although he had only followed them for a day, he had already obtained a lot of information. Did they say where they were going next? Old Anchor asked after a moment of thought, holding his stubbled chin. The itinerary of this group of people has almost no clear goal. It's completely up to the sisters. I didn't find out their next target, but I heard the maid mention to a Chamber of Commerce deacon that they came from 8 Desolation region. Floater, who had 2 long flagella tentacles on his head, reported in detail to Old Anchor. 8 Desolation region. There are a dozen remote, mountainous areas there that do produce colorful gemstones. The gorilla-like man seemed to have a certain understanding of 8 Desolation region, but there don't seem to be any particularly famous female experts there. The lobster-like man with bulging eyes was a little troubled. It could be a hidden family. That pair of sisters are obviously from a famous family. Their temperament is completely different from ordinary people. Another bald man with octopus arms made his judgment. Is it possible that it is the Tian Fa Empress who issued the summoning order for the Regent Emperor? Someone quietly said this, because this kind of suspicion was too absurd. In the end, he also felt embarrassed, his voice becoming weaker and weaker. The Heavenly Punishment Empress was currently in Wind-Still Swamp's Green Willow City, waiting for the various rulers of the Tianhua domain to pay their respects to her. There was no way she would come all the way to White River City. First, she had no purpose. What was she doing here? The name of the Tian-Fa Empress had never appeared in the Tianhua domain before. She must be an outsider. How much did she know about the Tianhua domain? He guessed that she was a warrior secretly trained by the Central Shrine. Because the Divine Light Domain Emperor and the Wrath Domain Emperor died in battle, and the Vengeance Domain Emperor was forced to leave, she was sent here to take over the territory. A woman, no matter how strong she was, without the support of a powerful faction, could she take over the entire Tianhua domain? If it wasn't for the Central Shrine supporting her from behind, would she be able to secure her position as Regent Empress? If it weren't for the Central Shrine, she wouldn't have dared to be so arrogant and send out the Domain Emperor's order to gather all the monarchs of the Tianhua domain before anyone was recognized. Second, the Tian-Fa Empress didn't have time to come to White River City. Although it was impossible for all the monarchs to be convinced, there would definitely be many monarchs who would go there to watch the show and accept the new Regent Empress. With the Central Shrine behind her, she would definitely stay in Wind Still Swamp's Green Willow City to take charge of the situation. White River City wasn't the center of power. On the contrary, it was a rare, peaceful place. Why would the Tian-Fa Empress come to White River City for no reason? Most importantly, White River City was the place that the Central Shrine didn't want to attract people's attention. The secret of White River City was forever hidden under the mysterious mist and fog. If the Tian-Fa Empress was really sent by the Central Shrine to take over the Tianhua domain, she would never set foot in this place. She would never even mention it, making this place a forgotten place. The result of guessing may not be correct, but bold guesses are worth encouraging. The truth of some things is often beyond people's expectations. If you think that everything is impossible, then you're making a big mistake. Old Anchor's face showed a wrinkled smile, like a generous elder. He reached out and patted his subordinate's shoulder, encouraging him. Although it's wrong, in the future, you still have to speculate boldly and use your flexible brain to find the answer. Huh? While they were discussing, the sharp-eyed lobster man suddenly cried out. His slender arm pointed to the southeast and shouted urgently, "It's back! The curved boat that left just now has returned." Old Anchor's face darkened. In the faint mist, far away on the sea, a curved moon-shaped merchant ship quickly split open two white waves and hurriedly sailed towards White River City, as if some terrible monster was chasing after them. Not long after, in addition to the sister merchant ship that sold the colorful gemstones, there were more than a dozen large-bellied square-sail merchant ships that left one after another, also sailing towards White River City at the fastest speed they could reach. Seeing this, Old Anchor's tightly furrowed brows relaxed a little. He hurriedly led his team to meet them, flying in the air while shouting loudly, "You're safe, please don't panic. Welcome to White River City, you're safe now. Up ahead, what's going on? Is it a pirate ship or a sea monster?" Fat Toad stood at the bow of the ship, but his face was pale. He didn't want to answer. The long and narrow moon-shaped merchant ship sailed directly into the dock. Old Anchor saw everyone disembark, including the pair of mysterious sisters who were presumably from a prestigious family, with their peerless beauty concealed by a light veil. Apart from the sisters, all the guards looked a little panicked, as if they had encountered some undefeatable monster. The answer was revealed by the great slave master, Shidong, who had escaped. Shidong's appearance was very strange. His limbs were surprisingly short, but he had a belly bigger than a pregnant woman's. His face was as majestic as a king's, especially the two curved and curled mustaches at the ends, which were even more distinctive. If one only looked at his face, then one would feel that this person was an incredible big shot. Unfortunately, his tragic height that even an ordinary person couldn't reach, and his big and majestic face, in contrast, seemed so comical and ridiculous. Hidden fog. Damn it, there's never been a hidden fog on the outskirts of White River City, and now even the last safe sea route is gone. The great slave master, Shidong, cursed loudly. He had made an appointment with several large chambers of commerce in White River City to transport 10,000 slaves as quickly as possible. Now, Because of the sudden appearance of the terrible hidden fog that devoured everything, he had to return to White River City and stay for a day or two. According to the experience and lessons of the predecessors, it would take at least a day or two to determine that the area where the hidden fog appeared was not dangerous. Deep in Old Anchor's eyes, there was a strange look that flashed and disappeared. When the lobster man, the bald octopus arm man, and the gorilla heard the words hidden fog, a strange smile appeared on their faces, as if they didn't believe it at all. However, they didn't correct it, allowing the great slave master Shidong to vent his unquenchable anger in his chest. In the end, Old Anchor, like a slick laborer, smiled obsequiously. Master Shidong, are you sure that is the hidden fog? You know, there's never been a hidden fog near our White River City. This is an incomparably safe paradise. Do you think I'm lying? What's in it for me? I'd rather the hidden fog never appear again. Do you know how much money I'll lose every day I stay? Damn it, I have to transport 10,000 slaves as quickly as possible. Every day I'm late, I lose 5% of the money I earn. Do you know how much that is? That's money you'll never earn in a lifetime. It's because of the damned hidden fog that I have to stay in this damned place. You peasants, you think I'm just trying to scare you? Ha ha ha. If you don't believe me, go ahead and try. Less than 20,000 meters away from here, I saw with my own eyes 2 ships sail into a black hole, instantly engulfed by the hidden fog. On the ships, whether sailors or unlucky merchants, there was nothing left of them. No, not nothing left of them, but evaporated. Everything turned to dust. And you dare say it's not the hidden fog? The more Shidong scolded, the angrier he became. He roared at Old Anchor. Master Shidong, we will send people as soon as possible to ascertain the safety period and restore the channel. Please do not worry. Old Anchor smiled obsequiously. Even if you tell me that the hidden fog has returned to peace, I wouldn't dare leave. Who doesn't know that the hidden fog is the most capricious thing? Although I like money the most, it's impossible for me to take risks with just a sentence from you peasants. Shidong scolded as he walked away. Old Anchor began to ponder. He did not speak for a long time. The lobster man whispered, "It's definitely not the hidden fog. It should be that thing that worked." The bald octopus man, the rough gorilla man, and the other coolies also nodded in agreement. At this time, their faces were filled with an irrepressible joy, as if it was a great thing that that thing had taken effect. Old Anchor glared. "Shut up. Don't ever mention it in front of anyone. This is top secret. However, if it really worked, in addition to protecting this secret, we have to report it in time to avoid unexpected losses and unnecessary leaks. You stay here and warn every voyager. Remember, the words in your hearts must be strangled in your throats forever." Floater, known as Smarty, asked in a low voice, "What should I do? The sisters are back again. They should have noticed that I'm in your group. They might be suspicious. This time, you can't go again. Find your sister, Fooping, to guide them. They're all women, so they'll be less wary. If they're not here for that, it doesn't matter. We just don't provoke them. In the next day or two, find a few more groups of people to talk business with them. They like electric sparks anyway, so we'll sell some of the electric sparks we collected. That way, their attention won't be diverted." Old Anchor did not forget to remind them. "Report their every move to me, especially the strongest sister. She's definitely not in existence to be underestimated." "What about that pretty boy?" Floater, with the flagellar tentacles, asked carefully. "If he's lustful, give him a beauty. Whether it's beauty or money, as long as he's willing to accept bribes, we'll try our best to win him over and cater to his tastes." After Old Anchor gave his order, his shrewdness disappeared in an instant, replaced by a befuddled decadence. He became a drunkard coolie again. While pouring wine into his mouth, he staggered towards the East City gate. Such drunken steps. He had been walking for hundreds of years. Chapter 1002. White River City. If one only looked at the race and architectural style, White River City was a place that was different from the other cities in the Tianhua region. Although there were many disabled soldiers, adventurers, and traveling merchants of various races living here, The main race that resided in the city was the half-fish people, which were rarely seen in the Tianhua region. The half-fish people, numbering close to 200,000, formed the most primitive residents of White River City. Their history. It was said that their history could be traced back thousands of years. The ancestors of these half-mermen had been living here for an unknown period of time. The natives of White River City belonged to dozens of different sects and clans, and they all had similar characteristics. That was, the men were ugly, and the women were beautiful. No matter which sect or clan the men came from, they all looked grotesque and unsightly. Their appearances were especially similar to the fish, prawns, insects, and monsters that lived in the water, and the parts that were close to human bodies were severely missing. The women, on the other hand, did not have many of the characteristics of fish, prawns, insects, or monsters. Most of them had bodies that were close to human, and with a small amount of fish characteristics, they looked especially beautiful. The architectural style of White River City was also unique. No one could understand why these half-fish people liked metal and machinery so much. Just like how they stubbornly only married within their own race, these natives would rather not build houses and would not use anything other than metal to build their own residences. All the shops and buildings created by the half-fish people had names that resembled metal and machinery, such as Iron and Steel Guild, Gear Hotel, Copper Gong Square, and so on. In short, if there was not a shop in White River City with a name related to metal and machinery, it was definitely not a native of the city, but a foreign merchant or immigrant. White River City had railway locomotives that could not be found anywhere else. They were driven by mechanical puppets created by the ancient half-fish people. They moved forward or stopped at fixed times. The locomotives were supplied to the natives of half-fish people who needed them. If foreign immigrants or tourists wanted to use these locomotives, they had to obtain permission from the local half-fish guild and pay a certain fee. Right now, Yu Yang was sitting on a 4-seater, double-track, round-the-city motorcycle. Sitting beside him was Lu Yi, who was extremely curious about the strange things around her and frequently looked out of the window. As a qualified guard captain and a qualified maid, Yu Yang and Lu Yi had just represented the Titan Chamber of Commerce that they belonged to and negotiated a big business deal with the Silver Chamber of Commerce, one of the 3 major chambers of commerce of the half-merfolk people, regarding the electric flower ore. Although there was no deal in the end, considering the half-merman's weak resistance to the colorful gem, this deal was definitely going to happen. Why don't we take the train back? It looks very peaceful. Miss Lu Yi was happy, but a strange thought suddenly emerged in her mind. The interest of the distinguished guests. The representative of the Silver Chamber of Commerce naturally tried his best to cooperate. They sent someone to the Iron Guild as fast as possible and helped Yu Yang and Lu Yi apply for real name passes. When they respectfully sent Yu Yang and Lu Yi off on the train, the polite representative, Sardine, still held Yu Yang's hand and joked, "Respected Mr. Yu Yang, if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have known your names." Yu Yang smiled when he heard this. His smile was especially sincere. "Mr. Sardine, as the business between us develops, you will know more about me." Gray Wolf, the lazy dog that was lying lazily at its master's feet and dozing off, also raised its head and meowed. It seemed to want to say no, but everyone ignored it. Its action amused everyone present. The train speed was very slow, but it was very punctual. Every 5 minutes, it would stop at a set platform. The time was half a minute, and then the doors on both sides of the train would automatically open for passengers to get on and off. Yu Yang and Lu Yi took the train back to the Iron Cross Hotel where they were staying. When the train stopped at a place called the Screw Station, a mermaid dressed in green got on. As soon as she came up, she immediately attracted the attention of Yu Yang and Lu Yi. None of the mermaids were ugly. All of them were beautiful and moving. Even the worst of them had above-average looks. However, it was the first time Yu Yang and Lu Yi had seen such a beautiful mermaid in green. This mermaid in green, who was holding a petal-shaped basket in her arms, exuded a fragrant fragrance. Needless to say, her appearance was definitely one of the best. Her big sky-blue eyes were even more beautiful than gems. Anyone who saw her beautiful face even if they were extremely angry, would immediately dispel the resentment in their hearts and change into a happy mood with a face full of smiles. This green-clothed mermaid's figure was extremely good, almost causing Yu Yang to reveal a lecherous look. Even Lady Lu Yi, who had a perfect figure, secretly felt inferior. Her actions were elegant, and she had an extraordinary air of nobility. She was clearly holding a basket and looked like a flower seller. She also looked like a commoner girl who was helping her mother to buy groceries on the streets. However, the feeling she gave was definitely not like that. No matter how outsiders looked at it, they did not think that it was awkward for her to hold a basket in her arms. On the contrary, it was like a noble princess holding a diamond ring. In the future, they would also be more generous and decent than her. Hello, I wish you a safe journey. The green-clothed mermaid gracefully sat in front of Yu Yang. She politely greeted Yu Yang, who was sizing up Yu Yang like a pervert. According to White River City's customs, she politely greeted a foreign guest. She was not angry at his rude gaze at all. She seemed to have long been accustomed to this kind of rude gaze. She was polite to Yu Yang, but when she sized up Lu Yi, who was of the same gender, she became happy. The mermaid in green's jade face blossomed into an indescribable moving smile. In that instant, the fresh flowers were overshadowed by her smile. She smiled at Lu Yi, who was secretly feeling inferior, and greeted her with a clear voice. I also wish you a safe journey, cute Lu Yi. How do you know my name? Lu Yi was very curious. That's because your name is written on your steel pass. The mermaid in green's smile became even more brilliant. It really is. Lu Yi picked up the small silver pass hanging around her neck and looked at it carefully. She discovered that her name was really written on it. She couldn't help but admire. Your eyesight is really good. The words are so small, yet you can actually see them clearly. Of course, my eyesight is the best among my companions when I was young. I can see fishes hiding 10 meters underwater. The mermaid in green giggled and chatted with Lu Yi. After chatting for a while, her big eyes intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Yu Yang. Suddenly, she smiled and said, Mr. Yu Yang is very mysterious. Why do you like to use a silver mask to cover the upper half of your face? I'm sorry, if my question is very presumptuous, please forgive me. How could that be? I don't have any secrets that I can't tell others. Especially for beauties, if possible, I really hope that all the beauties in the world can come and understand me. As soon as Yu Yang opened his mouth, he revealed that he was a big pervert that could not be concealed. Meow. Hui Tai Lang also raised its head and puffed out its chest. Unfortunately, due to its extremely weak strength, no one paid attention to this pet dog that dared to act cute. Mr. Yu Yang seems to be very caring. When a mermaid in green said this, Yu Yang retracted his leg that was about to kick Hui Tai Lang. He laughed and said, Of course, I'm the most caring person in the Tita Chamber of Commerce. If you don't believe me, you can ask around in a place with no people. The mermaid in green was speechless when she heard this. My teacher is like this. Please don't be offended. Lu Yi covered her small mouth and snickered. Your teacher? Mr. Yu Yang is actually your teacher? The mermaid in green expressed her surprise. Her red lips opened seductively, giving people the urge to feed her bananas. Of course, this was only limited to Yu Yang. The pure Lu Yi would never have such a thought. Lu Yi frowned a little at the mermaid in green's surprised reaction. It's my teacher. Although I didn't strictly acknowledge him as my teacher, and I didn't follow the seniority of the school's teachers, he is indeed my teacher. Many things were taught by my teacher, step by step. Lu Yi was a little unhappy that others doubted Yu Yang, no matter who it was. In her heart, Yu Yang was absolutely unquestionable. Yu Yang was now very proud. He put on the look of a good teacher. Only by teaching step by step can results be achieved, Teaching step by step? The mermaid in green suddenly thought of some evil things. Looking at Lu Ye's innocent face, and then looking at Yu Yang's perverted look, she was speechless again. Her reaction was very fast. Seeing that Lu Yi was unhappy, she immediately apologized to Lu Yi, saying that she shouldn't have doubted Yu Yang, this great teacher. She flattered him a few more times and praised that it was rare to see a teacher as young as Yu Yang. Only then did Lu Yi become happy. After a small interlude, the two resumed their previous conversation of similar interests. They talked about clothes, gems, then about gems, then about marriage, then about marriage, then about life, then about life, then about marriage, then about gems, and finally about clothes. Sister, why don't you be our guide? All right, what's Sister's name? I forgot to ask Sister's name before. Lu Yi only remembered now and forgot to ask for Sister's name. Yu Yang sighed at the side. What a pitiful child. The person who sold you and still helped you earn money was you. My name is Qing Ping. I live in the Xijin district. Sister Lu Yi, although I really like to chat with you, if you really want to hire a guide, you need to apply to the Iron Guild. Moreover, I don't have any experience as a guide. The mermaid in green declined. There's no need for any experience, as long as the guide is beautiful. Yu Yang's words were the legendary perverted theory. Anyway, we only need to be familiar with the terrain of White River City. We don't need to be too professional. We will apply. Sister, can you temporarily put down your work and be our guide for 2 days? Lu Yi felt that it was better to hire a guide who could chat. No matter what, it was better than yesterday's guide who had a glib mouth and a pair of strange flagellar tentacles on his head. Double the salary. Yu Yang's words fully displayed the power of money. All right, if your application can be approved by the Iron Guild. Seeing the train slowly stop, the mermaid in green immediately stood up and waved to Lu Yi. I'm here, sister. See you tomorrow. Me too. Yu Yang was anxious. Why didn't the beauty bid farewell to him? Then, Mr. Yu Yang, see you tomorrow too. The mermaid in green smiled when she heard this. Waving her hands, she gracefully and lightly got off the train and left. Her beautiful figure soon disappeared from the train platform. Lu Yi didn't speak again until they returned to the Iron Cross Hotel. Before she entered her room, she suddenly smiled at Yu Yang and asked, How was my performance today? Yu Yang reached out his hand and touched the soft hair on the top of her head, silently giving her a thumbs up. Lu Yi's face turned red, as if it was on fire. She quickly hid in her room in embarrassment. Chapter 1003. Old Anchor returned to his home full of wine bottles. Using his feet, he casually made a small gap on the ground and lay down comfortably in the middle of the stinking garbage, as though he was lying on a fragrant garden lawn. No one had entered this house for more than 300 years. Ever since the one-armed female soldier who wanted to marry Old Anchor left in a huff because she despaired at Old Anchor's indifference, no one had entered his room since then. Before Old Anchor could fall asleep, a few rats had already crawled out a hole in the corner of the wall and were crawling everywhere, causing a few wine bottles to roll and crash against each other. However, Old Anchor turned a blind eye to them. It was as though the few roaming in front of him were not rats, but invisible air. Outside the window, the immigrant businessman, Gan Quan, who had rented Old Anchor's ancestral land to build the whale bar, was instructing his newly hired waiter, Shijio. Big Brother Anchor is used to sleeping early. Don't knock on the door. Throw the food directly in through the window onto the highest iron hook. Remember to throw it accurately. This rope must be hooked on the hook, or else the rats will steal it. Oh, right, Brother Anchor will run out of wine every 3 days. You must place the wine at the door in time. He can skip meals, but he must have enough wine. Understood. Don't worry, boss. The new waiter, Shijio, was a clever man. He only needed to be told once to remember many things. Thud! He went to the window and looked inside. He slowly reached in and gently tossed the cooked food wrapped in oiled paper and tied with a rope. The food landed on the hook hanging from the ceiling. If Old Anchor wanted to eat it or wanted to go to bed, he only had to stretch out his hand to get it. Finally, Shijio thought for a moment and stacked a dozen bottles of wine on the left side of the door. He believed that Old Anchor would be able to see them the moment he opened the door. This service had started hundreds of years ago and had never been interrupted, be it rain or shine. Old Anchor did not collect rent, although Gan Quan, the owner of the whale bar, had consciously deposited most of the rent with the Iron Guild. He had sent someone to deposit it for Old Anchor so that he could collect it whenever he wanted. Old Anchor never went to collect money. He did not collect rent, but he made a request that Quan, the owner of the whale bar, take care of his wine. As long as there was enough to drink, everything was fine. Just like that, the habit of sending food and wine had been delayed for hundreds of years. Snoring loudly, old Iron Anchor fell into a deep sleep. On the other hand, the few hungry mice were a little anxious. They had been looking forward to that bag of fragrant food on top of their heads for more than a day or two. They didn't have enough intelligence to obtain this food, so they were so anxious that they ran around in circles on the ground. When the mice were half dead from exhaustion and had tried all methods to no avail, they had no choice but to leave dejectedly. Old Anchor's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and they shone brightly. His nose was still snoring in sleep. He suddenly took out a small black box from under the bed and twisted the spring on it. The mechanical parts of the small box rubbed against each other and strangely made a snoring sound similar to an old Iron Anchor. It was extremely similar. Replacing his snoring with the sound of a small box, old Iron Anchor moved like a wisp of smoke, like a specter, indescribably fast and nimble like a nocturnal tomcat. Without a speck of dust, he slid into the heavily rusted kitchen, which looked as if it had not been used for a very long time. Then, he gently pressed a button under the hidden stove. The entire stove cracked soundlessly. A dark underground passage was revealed, slanting downwards. Old Anchor gently touched the stove again, and in the instant that the stove was closed, he slipped into the underground tunnel as though he had no bones in his body. About a minute later, a faint light appeared in front of the pitch-black passage. When they got closer, they saw that it was a huge steel platform. On the steel platform was a steel door, with several huge steel gears biting into each other as the driving bearings for its entrance and exit. The gorilla and the protruding lobster man, who had changed into special steel armor, looked like dutiful guards. They stood in front of the steel door. Seeing that old Iron Anchor had arrived, the two of them bowed respectfully. The protruding lobster man asked curiously, "Boss, why are you 3 minutes slower than usual today? You're usually punctual, not even a second off." Old Iron Anchor's face was as dark as still water, and he snorted softly. "There's a newcomer in Sweet Spring's shop. Maybe he already knows something and is a little suspicious. That newcomer, Shigeo, is most likely sent by them to investigate me. That Shigeo looks like a scum on the surface, but he secretly has the strength of a heaven rank. Why would such a guy come to White River City to be an apprentice?" That lame excuse was really hilarious. Keep a close eye on him in secret. If there's any movement, kill Sweet Spring, Shigeo, and the others. At this critical juncture, no abnormalities are allowed. "Yes," the gorilla and the protruding lobster man answered solemnly, their eyes flashing with killing intent. At that moment, there was a person standing outside old Iron Anchor's metal hut. It was that clever fellow, Shigeo. He disappeared from the window in a flash, as fast as lightning. When he returned to the inner room of the Whale Tavern, the boss, Sweet Spring, who was always smiling and amiable, was waiting for him with a solemn expression. "That person isn't here." Shigeo bowed respectfully to Sweet Spring and made a gesture to signal him to go back. "You're too risky. You've only been here for a few days, and you haven't even dispelled the vigilance of others, and you're already investigating that guy's whereabouts. That's simply nonsense. You have no idea how terrifying that guy is. Before you, there were already 12 trackers who were as outstanding as you, or even better, who died in his hands. I understand what you're thinking now. You want to prove your ability to the higher-ups as soon as possible, but this kind of eagerness to succeed will only speed up your path to death. Young tracker, do you know how much time and effort we've spent to find this source? We've been working hard since 20,000 years ago. We've spent 3,000 years to successfully enter this White River City. But you, because of your eagerness to succeed, almost ruined all of our hard work." Boss Sweet Spring's voice was not loud, but it was extremely stern. "I was wrong, Father, but I really can't wait any longer. They're killing people crazily now, and they're using the lives and blood of slaves as sacrifices. If they're not trying to open the Water God Palace, then they're trying to attack some ancient ruins. We must not let them succeed. Otherwise, we, the Chaser clan, will no longer be able to suppress them. Right now, the strength of our pursuers is getting weaker and weaker. If we let these traitors get the treasures of the Water God Palace or the ancient ruins, the consequences will be unimaginable. Shijio knelt before Sweet Spring's boss, tears streaming down his face as he pleaded, "Father, hurry up and notify the Avengers and Adjudicators above us. Have them come here immediately and flatten White River City. Otherwise, we can only watch as they grow stronger and shake off our pursuit. They might even pursue us endlessly. Don't call me father. There are no fathers and sons here. Only spies and trackers. Only superiors and subordinates." Boss Sweet Spring corrected him seriously, but he suppressed his voice. Even in his secret room, he would never speak loudly. "Yes." Shijio nodded in response, but he did not get up. Instead, he reached out and hugged Boss Sweet Spring's legs. "You're not a qualified tracker." Boss Sweet Spring slapped Shijio angrily. "You can't let your emotions affect your mission at any time. Father, now is no longer the era where the Conquest Queen and the Prison Emperor are famous in the Heaven Realm. Now that the Heaven Realm Gate has been closed, we can no longer return to Tong Tian Tower. We have become a lone army, and Tong Tian Tower has already been suppressed by the Central Shrine to the point of collapse. We don't know when we will be able to produce another powerful existence like the Prison Emperor. The traitors' forces are getting stronger and stronger, and more strong warriors are emerging. As for us, our numbers are getting smaller and smaller. Our territory has been destroyed by the Central Shrine many times. It won't be long before we can no longer establish a foothold in the Heaven Realm. Even if someone is willing to take us in, we will have to live under someone else's roof. Father, now is the best opportunity. As long as we eliminate the traitors in White River City and kill all those cursed and mutated fishmen and monsters, then this territory will belong to us, the Chaser clan. With the secrets of the Water God Palace or the ancient ruins, we, the Chaser clan, will definitely be able to produce more powerful and outstanding descendants. Father, this is our best chance. We must snatch it before the traitors." Shijio begged bitterly. "You unfilial son whose heart and soul have been polluted by greed." Boss Sweet Spring pointed at Shijio and trembled in anger. "Why are we different from those traitors? It's because we always maintain an untainted heart. Even if we are forced to stay in Heaven Realm and can no longer return to Tong Tian Tower, our hearts will not change. We are still the proud warriors of Tong Tian Tower. If we have no choice but to succumb to greed, then what qualifications do we have to call ourselves people of Tong Tian Tower? What qualifications do we have to call ourselves the inheritors of Tong Tian Tower's eternal will? The reason why we are the Chaser clan, not the traitors hiding in the Central Shrine, not the cursed fishmen hiding in White River City, is because we will never be confused by the material benefits of Heaven Realm. Our hearts will always belong to Tong Tian Tower, and we will never forget our roots because of some benefits. As your superior and father, I am warning you for the last time, son. Young Chaser, your way of thinking is very dangerous. If you don't change your mind soon, I will disqualify you from being a Chaser. Warriors of Tong Tian Tower can be defeated in battle, can die in battle, but it is absolutely not allowed to be cowardly without fighting. You are afraid. You are afraid of the enemy. This is not wrong, because you are an ordinary person, but as a Chaser left behind by Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm to eliminate traitors, you cannot be like a coward and be afraid of unpredictable things. My son, if you don't have the unshakable will of Tong Tian Tower, no matter what power you obtain, you will not be a qualified warrior of Tong Tian Tower. No, it can be said that no matter how strong you are, if you don't understand Ji-Zun's state of mind, you will not become a true ranker. Boss Gonquan took a deep breath and waved his hand tiredly. You will leave tomorrow. With your current state of mind and strength, it is impossible for you to become a qualified Chaser. Because of your rash actions, the future may be very dangerous. You must leave as soon as possible. Shijio was silent. After a long time, he stood up and asked softly, "Father, have you understood what Ji-Zun's state of mind is?" Bosgon Quan shook his head. Shijio's face suddenly turned red, and he argued in a low voice. Maybe the higher-ups are lying to you. There is no need for Jizun's state of mind at all. If there is a need, why don't the rankers of the Central Shrine need to understand Jizun's state of mind to have such powerful strength? We trained according to the schedule, but we didn't get anything. The unchanging method may already be outdated. As long as there is strength, only then can one directly reflect the size of a person's ability. As long as we can obtain the strongest power, won't that Jizun's state of mind that is limited to the legends be achieved naturally? Bosgon Quan stared at him coldly, his expression as if he was looking at a stranger. After a long time, Shiju lowered his head and said softly, "Father, I was wrong. You haven't truly realized your mistake. I am very distressed. I originally thought that you, the smartest one, were the most hard-working one. Who would have thought that you were even worse than those blockheads of yours? Get lost immediately. With your strength, you dare to criticize the cultivation that has been passed down from generation to generation? This is simply absurd. You are just like an ant. Can you understand the mentality of a giant dragon that soars above the 9 heavens? Get lost immediately and reflect on yourself. Within 100 years, I don't want to see you again. Get lost immediately." Bosgon Quan couldn't hold back his anger and kicked Shijio out. Yes, Shijio crawled up in a sorry state, respectfully bowed to Bosgon Quan, and walked out with a face full of frustration. He quickly organized his personal belongings. He put some of the items needed for the journey into his storage ring, and then went to Bosgon Quan's room to say goodbye. However, after knocking on the door a few times, Bosgon Quan, who was already angry, simply ignored him. He could only kowtow a few times with a gloomy face, and then quietly slid out of the whale bar, flying toward the city wall. His movement technique was incomparably mysterious as he dodged the half-merman guards, and then dived into a remote corner where there was no one. He took out a rubber boat from his storage ring, carefully sensing the surroundings while cautiously paddling away. After the rubber boat slid out of the water for 100 meters, it was already out of the blind spot of the city wall guards. Shijio took out a bottle of black medicine from his storage ring, preparing to release the fog to sneak away. However, at some point, a half-merman with a jellyfish-like body was already standing at the bow of his boat. "Little brother Shijio, you've only been here for a few days. Why do you want to leave already? Are you blaming us, the traitor clan, for not treating you well as a tracker? TSK. We're all fellow countrymen from the Tower of Babel. How can I let you go back empty-handed? No matter what, I still have to let you find out some secrets, right? Little brother Shijio, come, I'll bring you to our underground city. There, you'll be able to see all the secrets you've been thinking about for a long time. I guarantee that you'll understand everything at a glance. Please don't do stupid things. With your strength, if you think about other things, it'll just be a process of self-humiliation. You'll definitely regret it later. Even if I die, I can't." Shijio's face was ashen, and he sneered as he pulled out a blue dagger. "No." The jellyfish-like half-merman laughed incessantly. He waved his long arm. Shijio found that his body was suddenly paralyzed. His whole body was stiff like a stone, and he could no longer move. Even breathing was extremely difficult. At this moment, the shadow of death struck his heart. It was only at this moment that he understood that his father's previous worries and reprimands were right. "I'm sorry." He really wanted to go back and apologize to his father, to tell him that he was really wrong. However, he no longer had the chance. "Small fries like you, I've killed at least 5 of you every year. Young man, don't think that you'll become a hunter just because you're hot-headed. The justice of Tong Tian Tower is not something that you can boast about. Even if we are traitors of Tong Tian Tower, what does it have to do with you? You've already settled down in the heaven realm, married, and had children. Have you ever returned to Tong Tian Tower? Have you ever seen Tong Tian Tower? No, nothing at all. Tong Tian Tower is just a dream that only exists in legends to you. Do you think that there are any strong warriors there? What a ridiculous thought. The Central Shrine had already turned that place into ruins. Even if there are still people living there, they're just like ants. Young man, don't always treat legends as truth. If the prison emperor that your ancestors boasted about was really that strong, why would he be killed by the central shrine? Don't talk to me about conspiracies. You also know that in this world, there are only two kinds of people. One is a living person, and the other is a dead person. No matter how strong the prison emperor is, he's still a dead person. On the other hand, no matter how weak we traitors are, we're still living people. Can't you tell who's stronger and who's weaker between the two? Maybe the prison emperor is just an idiot with a wooden head. He's just the trash that you all boasted about. You people are just living in your own daydreams. What justice and judgment? I'm sorry, you're not qualified. Xiao Jiu's skills were not as good as the others, so he had nothing to say. He could only close his eyes and wait for his death. He was a slightly impetuous young man, but he also had the most basic pride. That was the most basic principle of a warrior. If the other party wanted to persuade him to surrender or use violence to force him to reveal his secrets, he felt that the only thing he could say was, "You're wrong. Open your mouth and speak." Right now, even if that idiot prison emperor comes back to life, he won't be able to save you. You better be more honest with me. Otherwise, I don't mind using all the torture methods on you to extract a confession. Smart young man, you should know what I need. The jellyfish-like half-merman laughed complacently. Xiao Ji responded with silence. His heart was beating slower and slower. He, who had undergone special training, would quickly die if the other party used torture on him. Although he might not be able to endure all the torture with a smile on his face, the other party wouldn't be able to stop the slow death of this young pursuer who had made a mistake. You pursuers really have the same morals. All right, I'll send you on your way so that you don't waste my time. The jellyfish-like half-merman stood beside Xiao Jiu and said softly, "Don't you want to know our secret? I'll tell you then. This is a secret that only the dead can know. That's right. We are currently performing a blood sacrifice. We are currently reviving our ancestors. As long as our ancestors are revived, they will open the ancient ruins under White River City. At that time, we, the traitors, will rise up and become the pursuers. We will send all of you arrogant and righteous fools to the central shrine. Some of them are very interested in you. Isn't this secret very interesting? It's a pity that you won't be able to pass it back to your clan in this lifetime. Haha, shouldn't you be grateful to me? Young pursuer, before you die, please don't forget, my name is... Actually, I'm not too interested in your name, but can you tell me more about the secret just now?" Suddenly, a handsome man wearing a silver mask stood behind the jellyfish-like half-merman and patted his shoulder in a friendly manner. He smiled and said, "I've been running for a whole night. Even my clothes are wet from the humidity. I'm so tired that I finally heard a secret that only the dead would know. Do you think it's easy for me?" When he appeared, both the jellyfish-like half-merman and Xiao Jiu were stunned. Who is this? When did he appear? The jellyfish-like half-merman wanted to attack this silver-masked man, but he was shocked to find that not only could he not move, he was even picked up by the other party like a little chick. He, who had the power of an emperor, was not even comparable to a pitiful little shrimp in front of the other party. You are. The jellyfish-like half-merman was scared out of his wits. Me? I seem to be the prison emperor who is as stupid as a piece of wood. The silver-masked man revealed a bright and handsome smile, and did not forget to add, "Of course, I am a new prison emperor." Chapter 1004. The jellyfish man wanted to commit suicide, but death was a luxury for him now. Unreachable. He didn't know who had captured him, but he knew that he was doomed if he fell into the hands of this silver-masked man. What was more terrifying was that if he was captured, all the hard work his clansmen had put in for thousands of years in the White River would go down the drain. Just like what you said to him just now, you don't have a second choice. Actually, I don't need you to say anything, because a small fry like you is destined to not know more secrets. The silver-masked man who followed Shi Jiu the whole night was naturally Yu Yang. He grabbed the trembling jellyfish man and threw him into the demon's ceiling tower. He would let this guy stay in the demon's ceiling tower for a while until he was free, then he would let him out to see if he could be of any use. Shi Jiu was shocked and doubtful that Yu Yang claimed to be the new prison emperor. I didn't want to care about you at first because your performance was a little, how should I put it? It made me want to slap your face. It's already good enough that father didn't break your legs. Of course, you're still young, and young people are always impetuous. Seeing that you still have some backbone, I'll forgive you this time. You have to remember, I rarely forgive people for making mistakes twice. Yu Yang reached out his hand and picked up Shijio as if he was picking up a chick. He stuffed Shijio into his storage ring as if he was stuffing a can of sardines. Using the three-realm compass, he instantly returned to the bloody altar on the 5th floor of the heaven stairway. Once he returned, he greeted Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others. He released Shijio, who was covered in heaven realm or fragments, and threw him on the ground like a broken sack. He didn't care about Shijio's reaction and teleported away. He had to make 3 trips a day, making him feel like a running merchant in an online game. He was so miserable that he couldn't complain to others. Yu Yang, who was forced to run his business, left. Fatty Hai and the others surrounded him with a lewd smile, looking very interested in Shijio's chrysanthemum. Shijio was so scared that his hair stood on end. He wasn't afraid of death, but his chrysanthemum couldn't take it. What do you want? Where's this? Shijio realized that this was an unfamiliar place. She had never been to this place before. In order to become a qualified tracker, a sense of direction and an understanding of the area were undoubtedly important. Shijio dared to say that in the entire Tianhua region, other than the hidden fog, the smoke wave sea, and the underwater ancient ruins, there was no place he did not know. But where was this place? There wasn't even a drop of water in this godforsaken place. It didn't look like the Tianhua domain at all. If they weren't in the Tianhua domain, the ranker who claimed to be the new prison emperor would be able to bring him out of the Tianhua domain in an instant. What kind of terrifying ability was this? Could it be that he was a legendary god? This is the Heaven Stairway. Ah, that's right. It's also what you arrogant Heaven Realm residents call Tong Tian Tower. Since this is Tong Tian Tower, then we are naturally the natives of Tong Tian Tower. How about it? You've never seen such a handsome native before, have you? Fatty Hai's smile caused Shijio to sweat profusely. The legendary pervert who especially liked to burst other people's chrysanthemums should be this fellow in front of him. Tong Tian Tower? Shijio was dumbfounded. He never thought that in an instant he would actually be brought to the Tong Tian Tower that his clansmen couldn't return from for thousands of years. What else do you have to say? Fatty Hai's sinful big hand pressed on Shijio's shoulder. I am that him just now? No, I am the subordinate of Lord Prison Emperor. He just took me in. I am one of his people. I am a remnant of Tong Tian Tower in the Heaven Realm. I am the tracker in charge of hunting down the traitor. When I was hunting down the traitor just now, I was saved by Lord Prison Emperor. Shijio used his fastest speed to briefly explain the ins and outs of the matter. He knew that the other party wouldn't kill him, but if he didn't explain it clearly and this wretched fatty exploded him, where would he go to cry out for his grievances? In order to protect his chrysanthemum, Shijio decided to pretend for once. Are you really young Master Tai Tan's subordinate? From the crowd, a few people rushed out and enthusiastically held Shijio's hands. Are you really a new recruit? Welcome. I have been waiting for so many days. Heavens, there's finally a new recruit. Shijio was almost moved by these people's enthusiasm. The guy who called himself Jinyan was actually so excited that he shed tears. He shook hands and hugged Shijio to show his welcome. Heavens, the people of Tong Tian Tower were actually so enthusiastic. Through these people's excited, messy, yet passionate welcome and self-introduction, Shijio finally had a certain understanding of this group of people. The fatty who looked like a pervert with a despicable smile was called Haida Fu. Although he claimed to be the boss of the group, Shijio felt that he didn't look like it. Instead, the cool and silent guy, Shui Tanlang, was more likely to be the boss. Other than these two people, the refined and well-mannered prince of Tianluo was like the brain of the group. The tall and skinny man with eyes as sharp as a blade, but as heavy as a mountain, was called Yi Kong. He should be the assistant in the group, in charge of bribing the prison emperor. There was no need to look at the two brothers Li Chia and Li Gu. They were definitely the guards. Moreover, they were the most loyal kind. Jin Yun, who was so excited that he shed tears, and Feng Ji, who was the first to rush forward to hug him, should be the thieves in the group. As for the others, some of them were slightly weaker, while some were slightly stronger. For example, they called themselves Zhongguan, Heitu by Ma, and so on. They should not belong to the same group because their strength seemed to be much stronger. Thank you, I don't know, you guys are really too enthusiastic. Shi Jiao was extremely touched. He thought to himself, as expected of the people from his hometown, that his clansmen could not forget. This is passion. Fatty Hai hugged his shoulders, shook his head, and laughed. That's not enough. You haven't truly experienced our passion yet. Before he finished speaking, Yikong had already punched Shi Jiao's nose, causing Shi Jiao, who was immersed in his emotions, to see stars and have a nosebleed. Fatty Hai rushed towards Shi Jiao, who did not know the situation, and threw him over his shoulder, smashing the pitiful newbie heavily onto the uneven rock surface. In the blink of an eye, before Shi Jiao could scream, 7 or 8 feet had already stepped on him, kicking him heavily. Shi Jiao felt as if his body was being run over by 1,000 wild bulls. All the bones in his body were groaning. Shi Jiao realized that the one who beat him the most fiercely was Jin Yun, who came to welcome him with tears of excitement just now. Feng Ji, who hugged him passionately, was not inferior in any way. Shi Jiao was 100% sure that if this damned fellow had a 10,000th of the passion he had when he was beating people up, he would also be the best employee in the world. You guys, what are you guys doing? Shi Jiao felt that there must be some kind of misunderstanding. This is a welcoming ceremony. Fatty Hai explained with a serious face as he kicked him hard, as if he would not be able to express his love for Shi Jiao if he did not beat him hard. Wait, Shi Jiao felt that everyone did not need to welcome him like this. Compared to shaking hands and hugging, although he was not used to it, it was much better than beating him up. We do not have any prejudice towards newbies. Come, let us use our greatest enthusiasm to welcome this newbie. Let us continue this beautiful tradition and never abandon our inheritance. Fatty, what are you doing? Why did you stop? Yikong looked at Fatty Hai, who had retreated from the ring, in confusion. You guys can continue fighting. I'm hungry. I want to eat something to replenish my energy. If I don't have any strength, how can I let the newbie leave behind an unforgettable welcoming ceremony? When Fatty Hai said this, Shi Jiao wanted to cry. It's fine if you beat me up, but you want to eat before beating me up. Is there anyone who bullies people like you? He did not cry, but that Jin Yun cried. He beat Fatty Hai while crying. This damned fellow's explanation was, I was too excited. I've been waiting for this day for so long. Why am I the last newbie? Why does a young master titan recruit new people? I will always live in darkness. I never thought that my suffering would finally end today. You tell me, how can I not be happy? Shi Jiao finally understood what was going on. It turned out that the newbies had to be bullied by the older members. Who was the one who invented this damned welcoming ceremony? Wasn't this 2F** King evil? After fighting for an hour, everyone was a little tired. They all stopped to rest and eat something to replenish their energy. Only Feng Ji and Jin Yun, the two fake newbies, tirelessly carried out the welcoming ceremony. It was as if they would not die in peace if they did not inflict the pain they had suffered previously on the newbies by 100 times. Brothers, why don't we rest for a while before fighting again? Shi Jiao was a little resigned to his fate. Who asked him to be a newbie? Now that he saw Feng Ji and Jin Yun, these two fellows who were half dead from exhaustion, he could not bear to do it. It seemed that it was not easy to properly carry out this welcoming ceremony. Feng Ji and Jin Yun tactfully rejected Shi Jiao's suggestion. They expressed that no matter how tired they were, they had to continue. As an older member, if they could not leave the deepest impression on the newbies, that would be the biggest failure of their lives. All right, let's ask around. When will there be more newbies joining? Shi Jiao asked the last question to Fatty Hai and the others who had regained their strength after eating and drinking. Let's wait patiently. There will definitely be more. At most half a year, at least 1 or 2 months. There should be newbies joining. Fatty Hai kindly answered the question. Hearing this, Shijio realized that there was no hope for revenge in the short term. He was in despair. You can hit them, but can you not hit their faces? Before Shijio could finish, he realized that everyone immediately picked this as the main point of attack. Damn it, this crow's mouth. Another hour passed. Yu Yang had already made 3 trips from Southern Heaven Realm's Nightless City, Tong Tian Tower's Yu Clan Castle, and Western Heaven Realm's Green Willow City. After completing the task, he returned to the 5th floor of the Heaven Stairway. This time, he was bringing everyone to White River City. For a lazy person like Fatty Hai, if he did not bring him along to gain experience, it would be impossible for him to improve so much. When Shijio returned to the whale bar, his face was even more swollen than a pig's head. Boss Gon Quan could no longer recognize that this was his son. It was only when he spoke that Boss Gon Quan realized that this pig head was his son, as if he had seen a ghost. He was almost scared to death. Boss Gon Quan grabbed Shijio into the secret room. What happened? Why did you come back? He thought that his son had escaped and was discovered, so he escaped from the siege. However, Shijio looked at Boss Gon Quan with tears streaming down his face. In the end, he knelt down with a plop. Father, I was wrong. Hearing this, Boss Gon Quan's killing intent flashed in his eyes. He stared at his son with a sharp gaze. Unfilial son, you have already betrayed your clansmen? He thought that his son had been arrested and tortured to betray his clansmen. Shijio shook his head desperately, tears streaming down his face. Father, no. It's a piece of good news. He told his father about how he was discovered by the cursed fishman, how he was captured, how Yu Yang appeared, saved him, and finally brought him to the Heaven Stairway. Not a single thing was left out. Boss Gon Quan did not believe it at first, but this time, Yu Yang, Fatty Hai, and the others had already appeared in the whale bar. Only when Yu Yang showed the Prison Emperor Divine Seal did Boss Gon Quan completely believe that what his son had said was the truth. This was simply as wonderful as a dream. Tong Tian Tower that could not be returned for thousands of years could now be returned. Because of the fall of the Prison Emperor, the passage between Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm was sealed. All the Tong Tian Tower survivors who stayed in Heaven Realm became the most despairing and helpless lone army. After despairing for thousands of years, they finally saw the light of hope. Not only could Tong Tian Tower return, there was also a new generation of Prison Emperor who had inherited the legacy of their predecessors. Boss Gon Quan's tears flowed down his face. He cried like a child. He was a descendant of Tong Tian Tower who was born in Heaven Realm. He had never seen Tong Tian Tower before, but the nostalgia of his ancestors and parents had affected his entire life. No matter how good Heaven Realm was, it was not his hometown, nor was it his roots. Boss Gon Quan had never forgotten this sentence. He would never forget what his great-grandfather had said when he bravely stepped forward without hesitation to cover the retreat of his clansmen and fight to the death with the leader of the rebel clan. It's a pity that my corpse cannot be buried in the land of my hometown. Otherwise, I will die without regrets. Now, someone from his hometown had finally come. His hometown had finally risen. His great-grandfather's last wish could finally be realized. Family members of Tong Tian Tower who were left in Heaven Realm, you have not been forgotten. Tong Tian Tower, our hometown, has not forgotten you. Elder Nan Gong, who came together with him, emotionally held Boss Gon Quan's hand. Welcome, family, welcome home. Woo-woo. Boss Gon Quan had shed more tears than he had in his entire life. At this moment, he completely understood in his heart. Why would his father's generation be so obsessed with their hometown? It turned out that only with a hometown would there be a home. With a home, that wandering heart would truly have a root. Yu Yang left everything to Elder Nan Gong to handle and ran back to continue being the captain of the guards. Boss Gon Quan, who had discussed with Elder Nan Gong for an entire night, walked out of the room in high spirits. He felt that his and his clansmen's efforts for thousands of years had not been in vain. Furthermore, his body, which had originally felt that he was gradually aging, was now glowing with boundless strength. He could still work for a few more 100 years. Father, standing at the door, Shijio, who was a little hesitant, said weakly, I want to introduce you to Titan, you unfilial son. When Boscan Quan heard this, he was surprisingly angry. You've been beaten up, and you actually want to introduce your father to be a newcomer. Do you want me to beat you up to calm my heart? Is there a son like you? He immediately rushed into the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. Shijio was scared out of his wits and fled in a panic. Chapter 1005. Shijio actually didn't want to drag his father down with him. No matter how bold Shijio was, he wouldn't dare to drag his father into the team as a newbie and beat him up. He was afraid that his father wouldn't be able to talk to the new prison emperor, so he took the initiative to introduce his father to the Titan commerce. Currently, the Titan Trading Company was in dire need of manpower. Meanwhile, his father just so happened to be an expert in financial management. If his father could step forward and assist the busy fat toad Jada in establishing a branch of the Titan Trading Company in White River City and the Klansman's territory, it would be the best of both worlds. That way, his father could quickly lead his clansmen under the prison emperor's command and also display the greatest advantage his clansmen had after hiding in Heaven Realm for so many years. Unexpectedly, he didn't have the time to explain. This caused his father to misunderstand. Boscan Quan knew the truth later on, but his anger still couldn't be quelled. He strictly forbade Shijio from bringing any clansman into his team as a newbie, or else he would cut off their relationship. I say, Lord Lurker, even if I wanted to bring someone in, young Master Titan wouldn't be interested. That's not a place where anyone can join. Shijio smiled bitterly. Yo, look at your ability. Boscan Quan felt that something was wrong. Are you trying to say that I don't have the right to join? His anger rose, and he wanted to enter the kitchen to steal a kitchen knife. But when he saw Elder Nan Gong coming out, he restrained himself and decided to find a chance to deal with this brat in the future. Greetings, Elder Nan Gong. Shijio bowed and quickly slipped away. If he didn't leave, he would be beaten into a pig's head by his father. Tong Tian Tower is very busy right now and is lacking manpower. Little Yang wants to ask for Elder Gon Quan's help, but is afraid that it would be too presumptuous and affect your usual tasks. So he asked Elder Nan Gong to be his mediator. Elder Nan Gong and Boscan Quan had finished their reunion and now officially talked about work. Gon Quan is willing to contribute to the rise of Tong Tian Tower. Boscan Quan was overjoyed and readily accepted Elder Nan Gong's invitation. All right, Little Yang will come again later. At that time, Elder Gon Quan can return to Tong Tian Tower first, or you can bring Little Yang to the Heaven Realm Clansman's gathering place and bring them back together. With regards to White River City, this secret has already been leaked. There's no point in staying any longer. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, Mr. Gon Quan should make preparations early. After Elder Nan Gong finished speaking, he went out again and warned Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others to pay attention to their own safety and not to be greedy and rash in their advancement. Fatty Hai might act arrogantly in front of others, but in front of Elder Nan Gong, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Otherwise, the old fox, Jun Wu Yu, and the other elders would skin him alive. Shijio blushed when she heard that. Mr. Nan Gong wasn't talking about him, but when he heard it, he was the one who said he was greedy and rashly advancing. He felt extremely ashamed. Yu Yang, Sky Law, and the Southern Demon King had finished their gathering. After discussing a new plan, he hurried over again. This time, he returned to the Thunder Fortress in the 6th floor of Tong Tian Tower. He brought Octopus Man Boss, Whale Zhang, Swordfish Man Blast, Mudskipper Man Sui Zue, and the others. Impatience and the Southern Demon King. These two girls were not to be trifled with. They would definitely be able to set up a trap for them. There were hundreds of thousands of Tong Tian Tower's traders living in White River City. Because of their betrayal, they were cursed by a powerful ancestor of Tong Tian Tower, becoming curse-possessed hybrid fishmen. Generation after generation, they were like this, and the curse could never be removed. It was precisely because of this that these cursed hybrid fishmen also used this characteristic to identify them. If they weren't cursed and weren't hybrid fishmen, then they would be outsiders, possibly enemies. No one could really get close to these traitors. However, these hybrid fishmen would never think of it. In Tong Tian Tower, there were actually some warriors who were sealed and cursed to become hybrid fishmen. Moreover, these hybrid fishmen were released by Yu Yang and became his followers. It would be very difficult to use Octopus Man Boss, Whale Zhang, Swordfish Man Blast, and other hybrid fishmen to enter the core organization of the traitors. In terms of time, it was already too late. However, if Octopus Man Boss and the others cooperated with Yu Yang to put on a show, then it would definitely work. No matter how wary the hybrid fishmen of White River City were of outsiders, they would never suspect their own people. They would never suspect Octopus Man Boss and the others who were very close to them. Too similar. Boss Gonquan muttered to himself. If it wasn't for Yu Yang bringing them here, he would have suspected that these were traitors and secret agents who had snuck in. We aren't similar, we are cursed enemies. Octopus Man Boss shook his head and smiled bitterly. Not only were we cursed, we were also sealed in the graveyard of the sea for thousands of years. If it wasn't for Titan Yu, we would have been sealed in the graveyard of the sea forever, unable to escape even after death. If we can do something to slightly reduce our sins, we are very happy. Although we have become like this, our hearts have never changed. We are not fish, nor are we monsters. We are humans. We will use blood to wash away everything in the past. Whale Zhang made a promise to Yu Yang. Blood will also prove everything. Swordfish Man Blast nodded solemnly. Mudskipper Man Sui Zue wanted to say something, but was covered by Fatty High. You don't need to say anything. You really don't need to. We all know what you want to say. Ah, you know me so well. Sui Zue couldn't help but struggle to say this. I know you like the back of my hand. Fatty High laughed loudly. You don't need to say anything. I already know what you want to say, because everything you say is nonsense. You're right. Yikong kicked Fatty High and Sui Zue away. Li Chia, Li Gu, and the others were already used to it, so they naturally surrounded them and kicked them. Shi Jiu, the newcomer, looked on enviously. He didn't dare to go up and beat up Fatty High, a senior who was known as the boss of the whole team. Not to mention him, even Feng Ji, Jin Yun, and the others could only stand at the side enviously. Yikong, Fatty High, and the others were just playing around. It didn't affect the proper business. Yu Yang discussed the plan in detail with Octopus Man Boss and the others, and left Hui Tai Lang behind as the team's safety guarantee. Then, he brought Elder Nangong and Boss Gon Quan back to Tong Tian Tower, in order to welcome the clansmen left in Heaven Realm. If he didn't bring them back to take a look, he wouldn't be able to completely dispel the mystery in their hearts. This time, they returned to the entrance of the first floor of Tong Tian Tower. The old fox, Jun Weiyu, and many other races' representatives rushed over after hearing the news. There was finally news of the Heaven Realm's clansmen who hadn't received any news for at least 6,000 years. How could they not be overjoyed? When Boss Gon Quan opened his eyes, he saw the towering pillars of Tong Tian Tower. Tears immediately flowed down his face. He knelt on the ground, grabbed the soil with both hands, and sniffed it again and again. It wasn't enough. This was the smell of home, the home that he missed day and night. The wanderer who was left in Heaven Realm without anyone to rely on was finally back. White River City. Qing Ping arrived at the Iron and Steel Guild very early to wait. If it wasn't for the order from above, she would have disdained the lecherous gigolo guard on the train yesterday. Not only was his strength terrible, he even pretended to be mysterious. Did he think that wearing a silver mask would attract attention? Wrong. A true expert didn't need to do these things at all. They would also be noticed by millions of people. In Heaven Realm, strength was everything. No strength? Needless to say, one word could accurately describe this person, and that was trash. Qing Ping waited for Lu Yi, but she didn't see the silver-masked man from yesterday. She felt very strange and couldn't help but ask, "Sister Lu Yi, good morning." "Ah, right. Why didn't your teacher come? Because many jobs require him to operate, so he is very busy. Lu Yi expressed that Yu Yang had a very important business to discuss and couldn't leave. Otherwise, he would have been very happy to come. Qing Ping didn't doubt the latter half of this sentence. Just like that big pervert yesterday, if there was a beauty summoning him, it would be strange if he didn't come. However, it was so early. How could there be any big business to discuss? What big business is he talking about? Qing Ping pretended to ask casually. Thunder, or I'm not too sure either. In the middle of the night, a few Fishman brothers came to discuss business. Lu Yi said that she wasn't too sure either. Let's go in and settle the guide's procedures first. After the procedures are settled, I'll bring you around and taste the delicacies and scenic spots of White River City. Qing Ping understood. It should be 2 lines of light and dark at the same time. She was in the dark, and there was a line of light to cover her. Although she didn't know who sent them, she definitely couldn't take the initiative to expose her target. Qing Ping changed the topic. It wasn't a problem for her to deal with that lecherous, silver-masked gigolo. Coaxing Lu Yi, this inexperienced little girl, was naturally a piece of cake. Qing Ping felt that she was using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Could she get some more difficult tasks in the future? Wasn't it too easy to just accompany a little girl to go shopping? The most terrible thing was that this little girl was innocent and kind. She almost couldn't bear to deceive her. After shopping for 2 streets, the train in front stopped, and a large group of people poured out. Among them, there was a fatty who looked like he deserved a beating. When he saw Lu Yi, he immediately rushed out from the crowd. Lu Yi, I didn't expect to meet you here. It's really like meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Master Hai is here too. Lu Yi greeted him very politely. This beauty is? When Fatty Hai saw Qing Ping, even his saliva flowed out. It was simply like a waterfall straight down 3,000 feet. Qing Ping suddenly realized that if there was someone in the world who deserved a beating more than the silver-masked gigolo yesterday, it would be this wretched and lecherous fatty in front of her. With this appearance, you don't hide at home and cry, but you still dare to come out and show off. Do you think that in this world, ugly is beautiful? Do you think that with such a scary appearance, not coming out and showing off would be the world's loss? Qing Ping almost couldn't help but question him. As a strictly trained secret agent, her performance was definitely up to standard. She held back her disgust and smiled in response. Although she really wanted to use her hand to slap him, the smile on her face was even more gentle, even with a bit of shyness that vulgar men like to arouse their beastly nature. On the other side, she noticed that the tall and skinny guy that Lu Yi called Yi Kong was very similar to Lu Ye's greeting. She immediately determined that this group of people came from the same region. That tall and skinny guy named Yi Kong had a gaze as sharp as a blade. Just by looking at him, Qing Ping's face would feel as if it was being sliced by a knife. Qing Ping felt that this person was a formidable opponent. Compared to the silver-masked gigolo from yesterday, she did not know how many times stronger he was. Of course, he didn't seem to be the strongest in the group. The strongest was that cold and arrogant man. When he looked at people, he felt as if his whole body had fallen into an ice cellar. When he appeared, the temperature also seemed to drop to freezing point. Strong opponent. He was definitely a strong opponent. Such an opponent must be killed as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would definitely become a disaster. Qing Ping looked at Xue Tanlang's cool face and secretly felt pity in her heart. Such a cool and powerful man. Killing him would really be a waste. Moreover, in this group of people, other than that wretched fatty, there were many young people who looked good. For example, that refined and elegant noble young master, he was definitely a good candidate for a husband. His strength was not weaker than the strongest, the ice-cold cool brother. His appearance was even more extraordinary. Compared to the ice-cold cool brother, he was more gentle and considerate. Compared to the ice-cold cool brother, he was more noble and natural. Listening to Lu Ye's way of addressing him, he was actually a prince. Qing Ping saw this handsome and confident prince smile at her. Her heartbeat actually sped up uncontrollably. Heavens, did she really have to kill such a man? That was too wasteful. In White River City, it was not that there were no men who were more powerful than this prince, but their appearance was too miserable. Compared to this prince, all the men in White River City looked as if they had been disfigured. Not to mention this prince, even that ice-cold, cool brother's appearance could sweep away all of White River City. Forget about the damned fatty. Even that tall, skinny man with a gaze as sharp as a blade was quite handsome as well. To the men of White River City who were half fish and half human, he could definitely show disdain for the entire city. If I recall correctly, his name was Ekong. This name wasn't unpleasant to the ears either. Where did they come from? Why were they all handsome men? The three handsome men each had their own strengths and characteristics. Although in her heart, she still felt that the prince was the best, she was a little reluctant to give up on the other two. This was really hard to choose. If she could get all of them, Qing Ping's heart was a little confused. The more she thought about it, the faster her heart beat. Since Lu Yi hired a guide, then let's hire them together. Let's go shopping together. Come, let's pool some money. If not for Shui Tanlang and Tian Luo Prince standing behind Fatty Hai, Qing Ping would definitely not agree to his hiring. Now, forget about having an excuse. Even without this excuse, Qing Ping, who had never seen such a high-quality handsome man in her life, was reluctant to leave. As for that silver-masked gigolo, he had nothing to do with her now. Anyway, he was not a threat. Who cared what business he was going to discuss? Idiot, the more beautiful the guide, the easier it is to cheat people. Yikong expressed his opposition to Fatty Hai's decision. I've just been a guide for a day. I'm not the kind of old guide who casually brings customers into the shop and gets ripped off, okay? Sister Lu, you can testify for me. Qing Ping was not angry at all and even explained in a soft voice. It's okay. As long as it's a beauty, I am willing to be cheated. Please resist me, cheat me, ruthlessly ravage me. Please don't be lenient just because I'm a delicate flower. Oh yeah. Fatty Hai laughed so hard that the fat on his body trembled. In the blink of an eye, he was beaten to the ground. A large group of people surrounded him and kicked him again, causing Qing Ping to be dumbfounded. Master Hai can't look at beauties. Lu Yi apologized to Qing Ping embarrassedly. Qing Ping originally wanted to extend her leg and kick him a few times, but when she saw Tian Luo Prince looking at her, she quickly pretended to be a virtuous lady. Boring, let's go. Shui Tanlang snorted. His arrogant voice and cool appearance made Qing Ping's heart tremble. What a tyrannical little enemy. Somehow, the image of that gigolo flashed through her mind again. Why did she still care about him now? Of course, that gigolo was also quite handsome. Most of his face was covered, but his eyes and lips were very enchanting. When he smiled, it was even more amazing. It was just that he was too lecherous, just like that damn fatty. Otherwise, he would have gained a lot of points. If she could catch all of them in one fell swoop, including that gigolo, it would not be a lot, just 4. Chapter 1006. Yu Yang didn't care about how the honey trap worked. He guessed that the green-clothed mermaid Qing Ping, who had never seen any handsome men before, would still be able to move her legs when she saw Shui Tanlang, Prince of Tian Luo, and the other handsome men with different personalities and temperaments. Especially under the contrast of Fatty Hai's stupidity, this honey trap was even more lethal. Forget about handsome guys like Shui Tanlang and Prince of Tian Luo. Even Yi Kong, who could be classified as an ordinary youth, will be able to make people's eyes light up in contrast with Fatty Hai, who was a fat, green leaf. Fortunately, Yu Yang was very busy and couldn't come. Otherwise, if he took off his silver mask and revealed his bright smile, Qing Ping would probably be wet on the spot. Yu Yang left Boss Gan Quan in Tong Tian Tower and slipped away. Homesickness, the return of the lost tribe. These kinds of matters were all left to the old fox and Junwu Yu to handle. In this big world, picking up girls was the most important. It was very rare for him to have a chance to be alone with the Southern Demon King, the Peepa Girl. Would the guy from another world, who is currently clearing the Eastern Goblin Tribe's princess dungeon, casually tell others about this? Being a king is not bad. There are a lot of treasures to collect. If other kings heard what Southern Demon King said, they would definitely vomit blood on the spot. Other than her, who else would have a treasure vault full of treasures, waiting to be collected the moment they became a king? Which king didn't work themselves to death to collect them? On the other hand, once she took over, the countless treasures that the king of Still Wind Kingdom had collected for the Pearl Beauty, the treasures that filled the vault, all belonged to her. Just this alone wasn't enough. The most important thing was that Qing Lang, Lu Luo, Wan Jiao, and the other kings had died in this battle. In order to obtain protection, their relatives and subordinates all worshipped this Sky Law Empress sister as their master. They opened the treasure vault wide, waiting for her to collect them. In order to curry favor with the new ruler, countless lords and city masters presented their treasures to her. As such, the Southern Demon King, the Peepa Girl, received so many treasures that her hands were sore. Isn't it good to have treasures? At this moment, Yu Yang and the Southern Demon King were soaking in a hot spring in the Eastern Goblin Tribe's territory. They were enjoying their time together, and they were extremely satisfied. It's good, but I don't have enough strength. I'm a little too confident. The Southern Demon King laid lazily at the edge of the pool. Because the temperature of the pool was slightly higher, the moist and alluring little face was slightly red. Her sharp chin was weakly propped up on her jade-like arms. Her snow-white skin was like a snow lotus blooming in the steamy water, exceptionally alluring. Although her perfect body was wrapped in a bath towel, one could still feel the power of the lethal weapon. The towel clung to her skin. Because of soaking in the water and her careless movements, the towel seemed to have opened up a small hole, faintly revealing half of the snowy hill. Although it wasn't clear, it was even more alluring, as expected of the boundless spring scenery in the snowy mountains. Yu Yang didn't dare to look for too long, afraid that his willpower wasn't strong enough and he wouldn't be able to control himself. He would claw the ground and howl at the sky. This girl was usually wrapped up tightly. He couldn't tell that her pair of lethal weapons were actually so ferocious. If it was another girl, Yu Yang would have already shouted loudly, transformed, and pounced on her, biting her and pushing her down. Would he tell anyone about it? However, he had to be careful when using this trick on this girl. It wasn't that he couldn't use it, but he had to be careful. It was easy to push this girl down, but it would be troublesome. If this girl's father knew that he had pushed this girl down and didn't plan to give her a title, he would probably immediately pick up a kitchen knife and fight with his life. If he decided to give her a title, then it would be even more troublesome. There would probably be even more brothers-in-law of Mount Tai who would pick up a kitchen knife and fight with his life. In short, before he officially married Wu Xia, Fallen Flowers, and Princess Sisai, giving them a title was a headache. Now, Fourth Mother and the other elders had helped to suppress it. If they caused more trouble, he really didn't know how to deal with them. Yu Yang swallowed his saliva. Forget it. He would endure it a little longer. It wasn't easy for them to raise a daughter. If he had a daughter, he would definitely not be willing to marry her off. He would definitely accept her now, but he had to control the timing and not mess up the sequence. Otherwise, those old fellows would go crazy. Furthermore, he couldn't just push her down the moment he met the Eastern Goblin Tribe's princess. He had to build up a good impression of her first. People in H games still needed to talk to each other to increase their good impression of him. Only in love movies would they strip each other's clothes. That kind of movie was only suitable for virtuous female celebrities. Using it to woo the Eastern Goblin Tribe's princess made Yu Yang speechless. It was better to talk to her first to increase her good impression of him. He could forget about going to the park for a date or watching a movie. Although talking to her would only increase her good impression of him a little, it was still an increase. With your strength, you can practically do whatever you want as a king in the Heaven Realm. What's there to be afraid of? Furthermore, as long as your majesty gives the order, I, as the guard leader, guarantee that I will not attack anyone. Whoever dares to provoke your majesty would just be asking for a beating. Your majesty, if there's anything you need, just tell me to do it. I'm an expert in massaging your legs. Yu Yang hurriedly flattered the king. But I can't be a king forever. The Southern Demon King was amused by Yu Yang's words. Your majesty has lofty ambitions and great goals. I'm impressed. Yu Yang cupped his hands and flattered the king. This made the Southern Demon King even more amused. When her smile faded, he gave another suggestion. Actually, it's a good thing to keep suppressing your energy in realm. However, if you feel that you're reaching a bottleneck and leveling up is very slow, it's better to break through as soon as possible. After all, there's still a higher realm ahead of you. It's important to have a good foundation, but everyone's training method has its limits. You can't keep forcing yourself to grow at your limits. What Yu Yang said was the suggestion that the Night Empress gave to Shui Wuxia, Princess Sisai, Princess Fallen Flowers, and Southern Demon King, who were already close to the Elder Innate Realm. The Night Empress suggested that they should slowly break through to the Elder Innate Realm and try to build a good foundation. This was because when they merged with Yu Yang's mind, it was easy for everyone to understand the secret of the Elder Innate Realm. As long as their strength reached a certain level, it would be easy to level up. There were no obstacles at all. In this way, it wouldn't be as strong as the Elder Innate Realm that they had to go through many hardships to break through to. At least in terms of foundation, it wouldn't be as solid as cultivating alone. Everyone felt that the Night Empress suggestion was reasonable. Otherwise, they could do dual cultivation with Yu Yang. If they did it alone, it would seem too deliberate. There was no need. Moreover, dual cultivation with Yu Yang was the best way to improve. Therefore, whether it was Shui Wuxia, Fallen Flowers, or Princess Sisai, everyone tried to slow down the speed of improvement and put more effort into the foundation. Breaking through was not a problem. Everyone focused on building the best foundation. Only the best foundation could support a higher realm and stronger power. The Southern Demon King had always cultivated like this. Otherwise, with her strength and cultivation speed, she would have long surpassed the Elder Innate Realm. If she didn't try her best to suppress it, Yu Yang estimated that she would have reached Elder Innate level too long ago, or even higher. She would have reached the Elder Innate Realm earlier than Shui Wuxia, who was the first to advance. Her strength was already very good. It was just that the time she spent cultivating with Yu Yang was too little. That was why Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai surpassed her. Recently, I do feel that it's getting harder and harder to suppress my state of mind. However, humans are greedy. I always hope that I can gain more from my breakthrough. Perhaps this is not what a true expert pursues. The Southern Demon King smiled sweetly, warming up the snowy land. Heaven's will is natural. On the path of cultivation, we should not care about the results. Otherwise, we will be stuck in the pursuit of power. We only need to have the heart to become stronger. Yu Yang comforted her gently. I'm actually ready. The Southern Demon King suddenly lowered her head shyly. Her voice was almost inaudible. But I don't know what someone wants. Are we going to your palace or somewhere else? Yu Yang would be an idiot if he still didn't understand and take action. Can we do it here? The Southern Demon King felt that if they returned to the palace, no matter how secretive it was, people would know. If they went to an unfamiliar place, they would be nervous. On the contrary, in this snowy hot spring, there was no one else other than him. It was just the two of them. How could it not be beautiful? Yu Yang heard this. He instantly understood her intention. Actually, this princess of the Eastern Goblin tribe, who looked like she had the air of a king and was independent, was actually a gentle little sheep when it came to love. She was extremely obedient. Of course, her gentleness was more proactive. She was a girl who dared to express her love, just like the time when she played the pipa to express her feelings to Yu Yang. It was a courageous way to express her love, even though it was a little reserved. Yu Yang took the jade pipa from the side of the hot spring and passed it to the Southern Demon King. He first sat by the side of the hot spring, then reached out his hands and gently took the water droplet out of the hot spring. He placed it on his knees and kissed her forehead gently. I still want to listen to the song from last time. The Southern Demon King was a little shy, but she was also extremely happy. Her jade-like hands, which were still dripping with water, moved gracefully on the jade pipa. The sound of nature was as clear as a valley, resounding throughout the entire snowy hot spring. Even if he didn't understand music, he could still hear the love in her music. Even if he didn't listen to the sound of love, just by looking at her affectionate eyes, He could completely understand her heart. The music had stopped, but the love didn't diminish at all. Neither of them could remember when they hugged each other, but that was not important at all. Their lips were like dragonflies skimming the surface of the water. Both of them were carefully trying to express their feelings through this short contact. But this was completely unable to satisfy the desires of lovers towards each other. When their lips touched again and again, their lips never separated again. Only a passionate kiss could slightly soothe the flames of love burning from the bottom of their hearts. Kisses, no matter how much they kissed, it wouldn't be enough. No matter how much they asked or transferred, it wouldn't be enough. Her lips immediately swelled up, and her little tongue reluctantly withdrew from his mouth. "You're too barbaric." She purposely acted like a spoiled child. Actually, she really liked his barbaric and overbearing way of plundering. "Sometimes I'm quite gentle. For example now." Yu Yang's hand had quietly slipped into the towel of a certain Eastern Goblin tribe princess and boldly climbed the towering, fragrant snow hill. "Oh, you scoundrel. That's right. Why are your hands trembling?" She liked his naughtiness, but she didn't understand his little tricks, so she assumed it wasn't trembling. How can I not be nervous after offending a monarch? Yu Yang wanted to laugh out loud. This girl was too cute, but he wouldn't tell her what the tricks between lovers were. He had to let her slowly learn it, right? Of course, she wasn't an idiot. When his movements became bigger, she saw that her snow hill was constantly changing shape and trembling. She quickly understood and gave him a playful look. "Bold criminal, you dare to offend the king. According to the law, you're sentenced to life imprisonment. You're not allowed to leave the king's side in the future. Don't bite. If you bite me again, I'll bite you back. Biting is a very easy skill to learn. Does Your Majesty want to try?" A certain wolf started to seduce the pure Eastern Goblin tribe princess. Really, the Eastern Goblin tribe princess was about to take the bait. "Of course, I guarantee that you'll be able to master it once you learn it." A certain wolf laughed like a little fox that had stolen a chick. Chapter 1007. Life would not always be smooth sailing. There would be ups and downs in life. For example, Impatience was going to be the region emperor of the Tianhua region, and Southern Demon King was going to be the ruler of the Breezy Kingdom. Both of them met with resistance from all sides. Some of these obstacles came from the original subordinates of the Divine Light, Wrath, and Vengeance region emperors. Some of these obstacles came from the subordinates of the new Water Temple Master. There were also the spies left behind by the Sun King who tried to sow discord. There were even some powerful financial groups who benefited from the war. These people did not want the war in the Tianhua domain to end. They also did not want the Tianhua domain to have a unified voice, because they did not know how powerful Impatience was as the Divine Law Empress, and they did not know her mysterious background. The people of the Central Shrine even thought that they were sent by the Divine Light, Wrath, and Vengeance, so they did not do their best to stir up trouble. Instead, they were just trying to confuse the public and benefit from it. The subordinates of the three region emperors, Wrath and Vengeance, as well as the commanders and generals who had been fighting for thousands of years, were naturally not hot-headed fools. The consortiums that benefited from the war were as cunning as foxes. It was impossible to oppose openly. If what the Divine Law Empress said was true, and she had the power of a region emperor, those who opposed her would be the target of her ascension to the throne. It was impossible to directly challenge the Divine Law Empress, who was about to become a region emperor. As a test, all the forces came up with an idea. That was to test the queen of Breezy Kingdom. They wanted to see how powerful her younger sister, the queen of Breezy Kingdom, was. They wanted to see how the Divine Law Empress would react after provoking the queen of Breezy Kingdom, and what was her attitude towards the forces that were watching. They had to find out everything. As for whether the two region emperors, Divine Light and Wrath, had died in the war, except for a few spies of the Sun King, the others thought it was impossible. The region emperors were not made of clay. How could two of them die for no reason? If the region emperor of Divine Light and the region emperor of Wrath were really dead, then who did it? Who was powerful enough to kill two region emperors at once? Damn it, It's not easy for us to have some alone time. The Southern Demon King was furious. She was supposed to be passionately lovey-dovey with her lover, but they were interrupted by these idiots. There are a total of 3 parties that have been chosen to clamor. They are Flash, representing the Divine Light Division, Black Flame, representing the Wrath Division, and Mad Force, representing the 10 consortiums. The strength of these 3 people is not weak. It is estimated that they have the average strength of the 8 generals under the Sun King. They are slightly inferior to the Fool Poet, but much better than the Savage Fatty. The Dragon Emperor took out a document and explained it to his daughter in detail. As her father, of course, he wasn't blind about his daughter's change. Ever since she came back from the hot spring, the relationship between his daughter and Yu Yang was completely different. They were extremely intimate and inseparable. However, for the sake of his daughter's happiness, he chose to ignore it and pretended not to notice it, no matter how much the clansmen needed a strong leader like Yu Yang to lead them. If the Eastern Goblin tribe wanted to return to the Heaven Realm and gain recognition, it would be extremely difficult. The Dragon Emperor wasn't willing to add any pressure to his daughter's love. If he loved his daughter, he would let her be carefree and live a carefree life. He had learned from the fathers in the soaring dragon continent what was the best fatherly love and what the elders should do to give their children the greatest support. In terms of strength, Jun Wuyu and the Old Fox were definitely not as strong as the Dragon Emperor of the Eastern Goblin tribe. However, in terms of being a father, these few people were the best fathers. If Jun Wuyu and the others were willing, their daughter could stay by Yu Yang's side and bring more benefits to their family. However, they didn't allow their daughter to do so. On the contrary, as long as their daughter was happy, they would not ask for anything else. It was because of the influence of Jun Wuyu and the Old Fox that the Dragon Emperor felt that he should give his daughter more freedom. Let her fly freely. Let her pursue her own happiness without any worries. She was his precious daughter. As long as she was happy, what in the world could be exchanged for it? When the Dragon Emperor saw his daughter sitting on the throne with joy and looking at the man she loved from time to time, he felt that he was a qualified father. At the very least, she didn't cry for love because of his interference. This smiling face was the biggest reward he had gained in his life. The rise of the Eastern Goblin tribe didn't require their princess to exchange her love and happiness. On the contrary, the warriors of the Eastern Goblin tribe could sacrifice themselves to protect their princess and their children's smiling faces. The Dragon Emperor didn't say anything. When his daughter looked at him, he nodded his head lightly, secretly showing his support. His declaration made the Southern Goblin King shy and happy at the same time. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone was in the palace, she would have jumped happily into Yu Yang's embrace and shared this good news with him that she was still a little worried about. What a silly little girl. When the Dragon Emperor saw his daughter, who was so moved that she was on the verge of tears, he felt a burst of ridicule and heartache. Even though she had grown up and become incomparably powerful, so much so that she was qualified to sit in the palace of a country in the Heaven Realm and give orders, she was still the little Nan that he had always been worried about. Who are the people behind them? Can we find out? Yu Yang asked after thinking for a while. The people behind these 3 challengers should be the eldest son of the Divine Light Territory Emperor, Jizhou, the first commander of the Wrath Territory Emperor, and the first follower of the Wrath Territory Emperor, Lei Bao, and the younger brother of the New Water Palace Master, Tang Shi. Among the 10 consortiums, there are quite a number of monarch-level powerhouses. However, existences like Jizhou and the others are here for benefits. On the surface, they seem to be in an alliance, but they are actually in a state of disunity. As long as we get rid of the Divine Light Territory Emperor's son, the loyal follower of the Wrath Territory Emperor, and the younger brother of the New Water Palace Master, I believe that these consortiums will immediately smile and fight to cooperate with us. Jizhou, Lei Bao, and Teng Shi are quite powerful. According to the information we received, the weakest of these 3 is not weaker than the Double-Faced King. The strongest, Lei Bao, may be comparable to the Lion King under the Sun Monarch. The Emperor of the Netherworld was mainly in charge of gathering information. He was more experienced in gathering information, and, at the same time, he was more interested in this aspect. The Dragon Emperor, on the other hand, was more in charge of diplomacy and politics. As for Sky Execution, he was only in charge of one thing, which was cultivation. He did not care about anything else. All aspects of the demonic palace were managed by Sky Wrath and Sky Crime. The boss, Sky Execution, was similar to Yu Yang. They were both bosses who did not have to do anything. When Impatience heard that the strongest among them, Lei Bao, was only at the level of the Lion King, she suddenly felt a little bored. She shook her head in boredom. Tianhua Domain is a small place after all. There are no masters. I don't think we need to go through so much trouble. Just kill these guys and be done with it. Her words almost made Chief Butler Yi and Monitor Jean, who were kneeling and listening, almost burst into tears. Your Majesty, you still think that Tianhua Domain is a small place? You have to know that Divine Light, Wrath, and Vengeance, these three domain emperors have fought each other for thousands of years and have not obtained anything. The entire Tianhua Domain has been conveniently picked up by you, and you still think that it's a small place? However, they did not doubt what Impatience said at all. The wife of the Titan Prince, the Sky Wrath Empress, was said to be even stronger than Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, and Emperor of the Underworld. It was normal for her to look down on Jizhou, Lei Bao, and Soaring Snake. Those who could go against the Titan Prince and the Sky Wrath Empress had to be at the level of the Sun King. Right now, Jizhou, Lei Bao, and Soaring Snake were not even at the level of the Domain Emperors. It would be strange if the Sky Wrath Empress took them seriously. These three people were probably just the targets that the Queen of Gentle Wind wanted to establish her authority. It's not good to kill them. If the trees above are cut down, the grass on the ground will desperately grow because of the loss of the shade. We have just arrived, and Tianhua Domain is not stable yet. Excessive cleansing is not ideal. If necessary, we can just kill one to warn the others. We still need to make use of those who can be used. Otherwise, it will be very tiring for us to work every day. The Southern Demon King's words were in line with everyone's thoughts. Then let's get rid of Soaring Snake. This guy is the younger brother of the new Water Temple Master, Azure Dragon. I don't think he's a good person. Impatience looked at Yu Yang and gestured for him, the guard leader, to say something. After all, he was the one who had the final say in this matter. Azure Dragon's people must be purged, and the Sun King's people must also be purged slowly. As for the others, those who can't be used get lost. Even if you don't kill them, you must be expelled from the country. We came to Tianhua Domain to be the masters, not to be slaves. Who are they giving us face? Of course, they're allowed to change. We don't need them to be loyal, but at least they can't go against us. Otherwise, they will all be used as fertilizer. Yu Yang knew that a merciful person could not command an army. If the commander was merciful to the enemy, he would be cruel to his own soldiers. If he didn't set a good example, who would dare to follow him in the future? That's right. Everything is decided by strength. Sky Execution was also a supporter of Yu Yang's idea. In his eyes, the weak could survive, but they must have the awareness of being weak. If you don't want to be a pitiful weakling, then you must work hard to become stronger. If that's the case, then, Chief Butler Yi, you will represent the Breezy Kingdom and make the strongest declaration. The Dragon Emperor laughed and said, "We will speak with strength." Yes, Chief Butler Yi and Teacher Jean were servants. Of course, they hoped that their master's attitude would be as arrogant as possible. If their master was strong, they as servants would also be proud. In the past, the Breezy Kingdom's king didn't dare to raise his head in front of heaven rankers who were one level higher or stronger, so they had to be careful. How could he be as happy as the Titan Prince now? No matter who came, whether it was the Regent Emperor, the Temple Master of the Central Shrine, or even the Sun King of the Central Shrine Sun God Palace, they were all defeated. This kind of master was truly worth following for the rest of their lives. Chief Butler Yi, Teacher Jean, and the others took their leave. Shortly after, the Breezy Kingdom's king, made a strong declaration in front of the representatives of the foreign envoys that surprised everyone. In view of the Radiant King, Dark Flame King, and Violent Force King's rude questioning of the Breezy Kingdom's king, the Breezy Kingdom's king would directly refute their words with great force at noon tomorrow. Unless the three kings knelt before the Queen of Breezy Kingdom and publicly whipped themselves 100 times to apologize with the greatest sincerity, what awaited the three kings would be an incomparably tragic end. The three kings would bear full responsibility for the consequences of rudely and wantonly offending the dignity of the powerhouse. Once this declaration was made, everyone was in an uproar. One had to know that the Breezy Kingdom, which was originally the Breezy Kingdom, was only a small kingdom in the rear. Most of its territory was still part of the uncontrollable Breezy Swamp. The original king of the Breezy Kingdom was only a king who was mainly in charge of the army's logistics. Compared to the real big kingdoms that participated in the war, it was basically a little brother level. Not to mention the entire Tianhua region. Even among the more than 20 districts and more than 1,000 continents under the rule of the original Xinguang region emperor, there were at least tens of thousands of countries that were bigger than the Breezy Kingdom. In other words, the original king of Breezy Kingdom's strength was actually ranked behind tens of thousands of kings. Now, no matter how strong the successor queen of Breezy Kingdom was, she was just a small king of the Breezy Kingdom. How could she dare to make the three kings of the Tianhua region, the Radiant King, Dark Flame King, and Violent Force King, who were ranked in the top 100 among all the kings of the Tianhua region, beg for mercy and publicly whip themselves to apologize? The most ridiculous thing was that she said it was 1 against 3. What right did this queen of Breezy Kingdom have? Just because she was the sister of the Tian Fa Empress? Does she really think that others would have to give in to her just because of that? The Heaven Realm was a place that emphasized absolute strength. Without sufficient strength, even if her sister was the Tian Fa Empress who was preparing to take over the throne of the Tianhua region, she would not be able to protect her. Not to mention that her sister had not really succeeded the throne yet. Currently, she was only proposing such a ruling idea. Whether it would succeed in the end was still hard to say. The three kings, the Radiant King, Dark Flame King, and Violent Force King, upon hearing this news, were completely enraged. They immediately responded, "Fight." They had originally thought that they would be valued, meet and negotiate, and exchange benefits for support. Unexpectedly, this queen of Breezy Kingdom was so arrogant that she dared to say such wild words. There's going to be a good show to watch. Countless people who had been quietly observing the situation, upon hearing this news, immediately rushed to the previously unknown Green Willow City to watch the first battle of the Queen's ascension to the throne. Chapter 1008. Green Willow City. Even if the previous king of Still Wind Kingdom often held all kinds of banquets for beauties and guests, Green Willow City had never been so lively, and there had never been so many Heaven Stage rankers coming. Tens of thousands of Heaven Stage martial artists, city lords, monarchs, governors of some occupied area, CEO of some financial forces, or patriarchs of some famous families. In addition to these people in power who controlled wealth, armies, and power, there were also many mercenaries who came to watch the show. These mercenaries often had a certain level of strength and were eager to make a name for themselves. But because of their strength and other factors, their current status was still unable to achieve the goal in their hearts, and they were still unable to get the recognition of their superiors. They hoped to use the opportunity of the Queen of Gentle Wind's ascension to the throne to see if they could find a lord who could truly serve them, and end the mercenaries' bloody life of running around. No matter what purpose they had in coming to Green Willow City, the Queen of Gentle Wind's decision to establish her power and ascend to the throne greatly stimulated many Heaven Stage martial artists. Opportunity, no matter who it was an opportunity. If tens of thousands of Heaven Stage martial artists enter the city, Green Willow City would not be able to stay. None of these people had a good temper, and many of them had just rushed over from the battlefield. Most of them were enemies and had hatred for each other. It was estimated that within 10 minutes, they would start fighting with each other, and in the end, it was very likely that Green Willow City would be turned into ruins. Fortunately, the Dragon Emperor and the others had already expected this and arranged all the guests outside the East City Gate. Near the city wall, there was a huge arena. There were nearly 20,000 seats under the arena, and those who liked to sit sat, and those who were willing to stand stood. The areas were allocated according to the forces and teams, and those who were enemies with each other did not gather together. The Heaven Stage martial artists with higher status and strength were invited to the front row, and the Heaven Stage martial artists with less fame and strength were asked to retreat to the area at the back. This greatly reduced the possibility of a conflict between the guests. Even if there was a grudge between the monarchs, they would usually not be willing to fight in front of the eyes of the public. At most, they would mock and ridicule each other and use words to attack each other. The juniors, elders, or bosses they brought were not around and did not see their bosses fight. At most, they would glare at their enemies or talk to their friends. Most importantly, these people knew that although the Queen of Gentle Wind wanted to show her power, she was still the sister of the Tian Fa Empress. It might not be a big deal to offend her, but if the Tian Fa Empress really became the Lord of Tianhua region, who would dare to slap her in the face? It would be a tragedy if they were to settle the score later. Therefore, no matter how arrogant a person was, they had to give him some face and not dare to behave atrociously in Green Willow City. So, no matter how arrogant they were, they had to give her some face. The dignity of a domain emperor was an existence that could not be challenged. Otherwise, why would Jizhou, Lei Bao, and Soaring Snake hide in the back and push Flash, Black Flame, and Mad Force to challenge Queen Breeze? In other words, they were afraid that the Empress of Tian Fa would really become the Regent Emperor. If the Gentle Wind Queen wanted to establish her dominance, the mysterious sisters in White River City couldn't exist at the same time. Fortunately, this wasn't a problem for Yu Yang, who possessed the three-realm compass. As early as 2 hours ago, Yu Yang, the dutiful captain of the guards, had accompanied the mysterious sisters on the boat and left. This allowed Old Anchor, who was desperately gulping down wine on the dock, to breathe a sigh of relief. He felt that things were a little bad. One of his companions, Jellyfish, had made a move and was prepared to capture the spy from the whale bar, Shijio. Something that was almost guaranteed to succeed had actually failed. Not only could they not get the man, but the Jellyfish had also disappeared. Jellyfish, a famed expert in White River City, had vanished without a trace before he could even send out a distress signal. He hadn't even left a trace of a fight. It would be strange if Old Anchor wasn't worried. Jellyfish had disappeared. Shijio and Boss Oasis had also disappeared. It was as if these people had never appeared. Old Anchor had always suspected that their disappearance had something to do with this pair of extraordinarily powerful, mysterious sisters. But to Old Anchor's surprise, the mysterious sisters had left as if nothing had happened. It was as if they had no interest in White River City at all. Once the electric sparkle or had filled the boat, they immediately left. What puzzled Old Anchor the most was that when the mysterious sisters left, they left behind a large group of subordinates to continue purchasing electric sparkle, or they didn't seem like enemies at all. Instead, they seemed more like a hidden family that urgently needed electric sparkle or for some kind of demand. If they were really enemies, they wouldn't have left so many people in White River City. Even if they did, it wouldn't be those inexperienced juniors. According to the information obtained from the investigation, this pair of mysterious sisters had really been purchasing electric sparkle or along the way. Aside from electric sparkle, or they had almost no interest in anything else. Why were they buying electric sparkle or in such large quantities? Old Anchor couldn't figure it out, and he didn't want to ask. In White River City, he only wanted to be himself. Old Anchor was the happiest that the mysterious sisters weren't enemies, because he really didn't want to provoke such powerful enemies. Seeing them leave on a boat early in the morning, Old Anchor's heart, which had been hanging in midair, finally relaxed and returned to its original position. He would never have imagined that not long after leaving White River City, the mysterious sisters would instantly return to Green Willow City in the Still Swamp, resuming their identities as the Empress of Divine Punishment and the Queen of Gentle Wind. Now, the Impatiens and the Southern Demon King were accompanying Yu Yang, enjoying the sumptuous lunch that General Manager he had meticulously prepared for the whole night. Usually, Yu Yang and the two of them would eat in the grimoire world. Xiaonu's greatest wish was to fill Yu Yang's stomach with delicious food every day. But they were servants. Sometimes, they couldn't refuse too much. They had to be given a little chance to show off. This dragon whisker grouper is steamed well. It's very fresh. Yu Yang gave a rare compliment. Yes. General Manager Yi was overjoyed when he heard this. At the same time, he made a mental note that the Titan Prince liked to eat fresh steamed fish. The two ladies didn't reject this dish either. The soup is not bad too. It's just that the dessert is a little too sweet. The fact that the Impatiens, who is extremely picky about her taste, could give such an evaluation was already the greatest gift. General Manager Yi was already prepared to listen to her criticism. He didn't think that he would pass this time. He really didn't waste the effort he had put in the entire night. There's quite a variety of dishes, and the taste is passable. There's only one problem. There are too many side dishes, and it's a little hard to distinguish the main course. Everyone's intention to serve us is still good. It's worthy of praise. Continue to work hard. All the related personnel will be rewarded. General Manager Yi, I won't reward you. I'll remember this for now. I'll reward you when you make new contributions. Southern Demon King's words made General Manager Yi quickly bow in gratitude. He didn't lack money, but he was most afraid that his master wouldn't remember him. As long as his master still remembered him as a subordinate, that was more important than anything else. However, Southern Demon King's next sentence made him break out in a cold sweat. He knelt down on the spot. Because Southern Demon King said, "Behead the chef who made us the honey-soaring sparrow." I don't know who sent him, and I don't want to know. However, since he dared to do something as senseless as poisoning, I won't forgive him. General Manager Yi was shocked and angry. He quickly kowtowed and begged for forgiveness. He swore to find all the assassins and return the Queen of Gentle Wind a safe royal chef. Yu Yang casually waved his hand and said, "There's no need to gather so many people. The poison in that dish must have been added the moment it was cooked. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been covered up. The one who poisoned the dish must be the chef. Behead him in public. There's no need to spread the news, or it will affect people's morale. Go back and tell everyone that as long as they do their job well, Her Majesty the Queen will not mistreat them. The one who poisoned the dish should be an assassin who was ordered by someone to sneak in. It has nothing to do with them." Impatiens laughed. "If those guys think that they can poison us with this trick, then it's too funny. The so-called experts of Tianhua region only have this little trick? I'm so disappointed." 10 minutes later, General Manager Yi brought in a fat assassin disguised as a chef who was tied up by a dragon binding chain to beg for forgiveness. Other than Zhongguan, He Tu, and Bai Ma, there was also Ghost Wolf who volunteered to capture the assassin. He was Green Wolf's younger brother. Although he was only Heaven Rank Level 3, he had good potential. Yu Yang decided to temporarily record him as a person to observe the newcomers. In this way, how could Ghost Wolf not work hard to become a permanent member? Behead him. Send his head to the East Gate for public display. It's time to slap someone's face. Otherwise, they don't know their place. Southern Demon King waved her hand and decided the guy's fate. "My lord will avenge me. You women, sooner or later." Before the assassin could finish his insulting words, Ghost Wolf had already slapped him back. "Do you have the right to speak here?" As subordinates, Zhongguan and the others naturally hated others who verbally attacked their lord. They immediately dragged the guy out and beat him up. They directly broke his bones and beheaded him in public. After this small show of power, many people had a little understanding of Queen Breezy's strength. Sure enough, fierce dragons don't cross the river. The Queen of Gentle Wind dared to use her status as the ruler of Still Wind Swamp to directly crush 3 rulers who were ranked in the top 100 in the Tianhua region. How could she be intimidated by a lowly assassin who used such a despicable method? Although people didn't know who sent this assassin, it was clear that Queen Breezy didn't hesitate to execute him. This Queen of Breezy was definitely a hardliner. Unless someone had far more power than her, it was estimated that flash, black flame, and violent force would be disgraced. A bloody severed head hung above the eastern city gate. Anyone could see it at a glance. Ghost Wolf and a dozen other Heaven Stage castellans who also took the initiative to join the new queen formed the guards of Queen Breezy. They stood on the East Gate Tower to prevent someone from stealing the head. If that happened, it would really damage the dignity of Queen Breezy. In addition to them, there were also 2 female guards with veils flying out of the king's mansion. They were probably personally appointed by Queen Breezy. Although they didn't know Ghost Wolf, they were very respectful and didn't dare to neglect him. The 2 women looked indifferent. They just nodded in response and said no more. Looking at their surface strength, it was impossible to see it. They were completely hidden and couldn't be seen at all. They seemed to be very high, but also not Heaven Stage. Of course, no matter what, since they were personally appointed by Queen Breezy, they were real guards. Compared to Ghost Wolf, who was just a newbie, their status was naturally not on the same level. I was wondering who it was, so it's you, Ghost Wolf. Hanging a bloody head here is really affecting our appetite. A tall and skinny man with a wooden mouth and a wooden face stood in the crowd, laughing evilly and provoking them for no reason. This person's strength was at Heaven Stage level 4. Standing beside him, there were more than a dozen Heaven Stage warriors. All of them were Heaven Stage level 3 and above. They were all jeering together. If you have the ability, remove the transformation spell and speak with your original appearance. You hiding, do you dare to speak with your real face? Ghost Wolf was furious. He took a step forward and pointed at the tall and thin man with a wooden face. I, Ghost Wolf, will say the ugly words first. If you dare to touch this head, you are provoking the dignity of Queen Breezy. Kill without mercy. I'm so scared. The tall and thin man who changed his appearance said sarcastically, with your Heaven Stage level 3 strength, you dare to show off? Are you trying to scare us to death? If you have the ability, come down and fight me. I will fight you with only one hand. One look, and I can tell you are a coward. Ghost Wolf is a natural eunuch. Under Queen Breezy's throne, there are only dead warriors. She will definitely scare us away. I, Ghost Wolf, am not talented. If anyone dares to offend the dignity of the queen, only death awaits. If you guys dare to steal my head, I will dare to make a move. Do you really think that with the master behind you, you can challenge the dignity of Queen Breezy? The day when Queen Breezy ascends to the throne will be the day when Queen Breezy rules over our Tianhua region. If you guys don't surrender, you will be wiped out. If you don't believe me, come up and try. Ghost Wolf suppressed his anger and declared firmly, "Who told you about Queen Breezy?" Now, it is Queen Breezy who is overestimating herself and challenging the 3 kings. Who are we? You are just a lackey. It is none of your business. Stealing someone's head, that is so boring. What do you mean by offending the dignity of Queen Breezy? We will not do that. We're just spectators. Can we come and watch? Ghost Wolf, don't accuse us. Besides, with a useless person like you standing guard, maybe a gust of wind could blow this head away. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the crowd. In an instant, sand and pebbles were flying. The scene was in chaos. The tall and skinny man with a wooden mouth and wooden face had leaped onto the city gate tower. He did not reach out to the human heads, but to Ghost Wolf. Brother Ghost Wolf, long time no see. Big brother invites you for a drink. Don't decline. Ghost Wolf roared and attacked the tall and thin man with a dozen Heaven Stage guards at the same time. However, the tall and thin man's body flashed with a golden light. Just the aura emitted from his body was enough to push Ghost Wolf and the others back. The tall and thin man laughed. "Ha ha, too weak. You can't even withstand a single blow." He did not finish his sentence. Suddenly, a deafening explosion came from the bottom of the city wall. It was like the tremor of heaven and earth shattering. A strong shockwave exploded, causing thousands of Heaven Stage experts to be blown tens of meters away, creating a circular space. In the center of the empty space, there was a masked girl. She was wearing a pair of exquisite silver boots and was stepping on a fat man with 4 legs facing the sky. His stomach was caved in, and he was vomiting blood. He looked like a toad that was smashed by a huge rock. The eyes of the fat man who was vomiting blood turned white, and he was in a state of near death. Below him, there was a small hole in the ground. There were cracks in the hole, and they spread out like a spider web. They continued to spread for hundreds of meters. Because he had lost consciousness, the fat man who was on the verge of death could no longer hide his original appearance. The muscles on his face kept changing, and he gradually recovered his original appearance. When the crowd saw this person's face, they subconsciously exclaimed, "Hippo Quang Da? It's Quang Da's younger brother, Quang Da." Who is Quang Da? Almost everyone present knew him. He was one of Quang Da's 2 younger brothers. His strength was as high as Heaven Stage level 5. Although he was not as strong as his elder brother, he was still a Heaven Stage expert. Unexpectedly, the Hippo Quang Da, who was a king level expert, could not even withstand a single move from the little girl in front of him. Who was this little girl? Was she the queen of gentle wind? No, if she was the queen of gentle wind, why would she come to guard the head of a man who was about to be beheaded? But if she was not the queen of gentle wind, then what was her identity? Could it be that she was the maid of the queen of gentle wind? A mere maid could instantly kill a king-level expert. If the maid was already so strong, then wouldn't the queen of gentle wind be? Thinking of this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. My goodness, it turns out that this quiet little girl is actually the strongest among the 1,000 Heaven Stage warriors. Ghost Wolf and the rest broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, their attitude towards her was respectful enough. Otherwise, it would be too rude. The tall and skinny man shivered. This was too scary. He could not stay here for long. He immediately soared into the sky and used his movement technique. He flew as fast as lightning, intending to escape from the East Gate Tower. However, everyone could clearly see this scene. Before he moved, the other masked girl on the East Gate Tower did not move. But when the tall and skinny man soared into the sky, she was 10 times faster than him. She directly pressed her palm on the tall and skinny man's back. It was so fast that he did not even have the time to notice the attack. 2 shadows flew up from the crowd and attacked the masked girl. They wanted to save their companion. Courting death, the masked girl's figure flashed and appeared behind the 2 shadows. She pressed down on the back of their necks and mercilessly smashed their heads in front of everyone. The moment the 2 corpses fell down, the tall and skinny man smashed into the ground like a meteor. His hands were on the ground. Blood gushed out from his nose and mouth. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that his heart and lungs had long been shattered by the masked girl's palm. Moreover, that kind of destructive power contained supreme willpower. It was impossible to reverse and recover. The tall and skinny man tried his best to support his body. He wanted to stand up, but it was as if there was a mountain pressing down on him. It was impossible for him to straighten his back. His face gradually changed. The original wooden face returned to its original appearance, causing another burst of exclamations. It's the evil lizard, so it's this guy who is good at disguising. He obviously has the strength of Heaven Stage level 5, but he pretended to be Heaven Stage level 4. He's really cunning. No wonder Ghost Wolf couldn't move him at all. However, it's useless no matter how cunning he is. He met his nemesis. The evil lizard, is about to die. The Breeze Queen of Green Willow City actually won another round. It seems that the wind in Tianhua region is really going to change. Haha. I wonder who the 2 people who died just now were. It should be a king of the same level as him. Forget it. It's meaningless even if he's a king since he's already dead. I won't admit defeat. The tall and skinny evil lizard desperately raised his strength. He hoped to straighten his waist, but it was more difficult than carrying a mountain on his back. This was because the masked girl's foot was stepping on his back. With her stepping on it, the evil lizard's spine creaked, but it was useless. The masked girl casually stepped on it. Boring. You're already a dead man, but you're still struggling. The evil lizard's spine was broken into countless pieces on the spot. Its ribs were broken, and its entire body was like a dead lizard that had been trampled into pieces. The evil lizard spat out blood and shouted with its last bit of strength, "I want to know who killed me." The masked girl coldly snorted and turned to leave with another girl who was obviously younger. "You're not worthy to know my name." After the tall and skinny evil lizard heard this, he vomited blood and died. He died with his eyes wide open. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.